This boy was a genius in military combat, but during the Union's operation, he was betrayed. That day, he went back in time to when he was still in school. Back then, he was just an average student who got beaten up, but now, he is a military genius ready to crush anyone who stands in his way, all for his revenge. The year is 2025. It's May 15th, in an abandoned house. A man tied to a chair asks what he's going to do. The soldier approaches, pistol grip in hand, then he smashes it down, hitting the man's ring finger. The man screams in pain, but the protagonist grits his teeth, calling him a miserable bastard. He's going to talk one way or another. If he talks now, I can make it quick. A soldier calls out to his captain, saying this kind of torture violates regulations. Jiangshan screams that regulations are bullshit. His brothers died for nothing. That bastard is hiding in this building, and today, I'm going to tear him apart. He grabs the man by the hair. Give me the rooftop password if you want to leave this world in one piece. The man keeps crying, but he quickly caves and reveals the code. Facing the gate, Jiangshan quickly punches in a code and tells his partner to provide cover. Then he kicks the door in with all his might. A blonde man is lounging in an armchair. Captain Jiang, you finally arrived, he says, but it looks like you took your sweet time. Jiangshan retorts, for you to be in such a hurry to see me, Chen, you must think you're going to live forever. I warned you I'd capture you with my own 2 hands and tear you to pieces to feed the dogs. Chen is shocked, but then asks if Captain Zhang really thinks he's been caught. Jiangshan yells that it's a joke. His reinforcements are on their way, and Chen won't escape even if he grew wings. But Chen says the captain is mistaken. There are no reinforcements coming. Suddenly, a gun is pressed to his head. His partner apologizes. Sorry, Captain. Chen says, you're just a brute. You probably don't understand that the best strategy is to win without fighting. Maybe you can think about that in your next life. The protagonist turns to his partner screaming, you bastard. He tries to move the gun, telling him not to even think about shooting. But then the bullet hits his head, and he collapses to the floor. Zhang reflects that this was all a trap from the start, designed to wipe out the entire Long 2 force. If he had known, he would have blown that bastard's head off with a single shot. His entire life was dedicated to fighting evil, but he never realized the true evil was right by his side. If only he could go back in time, he'd kill every last one of those vermin. But he knows something like that is impossible. Suddenly, his eyes snap open. A nerdy-looking guy is calling out to his classmate. The protagonist becomes aware of his own body. The nerd says, I'm not a pervert. I wasn't peeping in the bathroom or anything. You just scared me, standing there completely still. Jiangshan asks if he's a student, and the kid confirms it, but the protagonist grabs him, demanding to know how a student got into a criminal's hideout. The kid says this is a school. He tells him it's April 13th, 2015, and that maybe he should pay a visit to the school counselor's office. Then the nerd walks off, thinking the guy is completely insane. Jiangshan looks at himself in the mirror, realizing he's been reborn. He's back 10 years in the past. He slaps his own face. A smile spreads across his lips. If he's alive again, then this time, it's those vermin who are going to lose their lives. A few girls walk by, talking about a cute guy named Gi. One of them notices the protagonist, and her friend asks, what are you looking at? We weren't talking about him. Then she walks on. He was just whispering by the bathroom door and even had a nosebleed. But the girl in the middle tells them to just drop it and head to the showers. The protagonist thinks to himself, today is April 13th. He remembers clearly that a terrible incident happened on this day. Since he can rewrite his life, this is where he'll begin. Tragedies are often full of coincidences. Some girls wonder if there's a delinquent at the school. Another friend says the class next door ran into him. The protagonist slides open the glass door and asks if he can come in to get some water. The classroom building is out of water again, he explains. A girl remarks that it's a third-rate school, and he promises not to stare. He begins to fill up with water, thinking to himself that back then, it happened right at this water fountain. He wonders what time it is and glances at his watch. It's 1:15 p.m. But what fuels coincidence is cowardice. From another room, a girl screams that there's a pervert watching the girls shower. This is it. It's happening today, the protagonist thinks as the man runs toward him. This was the exact moment that sealed his fate. On April 12, 2015, a terrible incident occurred at the school. A pervert appeared in the locker room, and when he was discovered, he made a desperate escape. Jiang had a chance to stop the tragedy that followed, but in that moment he was overcome by fear. He could only cry on the floor, consumed by guilt. That pervert ran into the girl's bathroom and committed a heinous crime against a girl who was showering. After that, she transferred schools. No one ever heard from her again, and the incident was eventually forgotten by everyone, but it became his inner demon. In the end, he didn't graduate. He dropped out of school and joined the army. After joining the special forces, he was reprimanded several times for breaking the rules, but the rage inside him never subsided. He couldn't understand how a scumbag who destroyed someone's life could walk free. Over time, he came to be known as the Lone Wolf. Back in the present, girls are screaming, "Don't let him get away! Catch him. In theory, after being reborn, he should have gone straight for Chen Xiao and crushed his skull. The pervert pulls out a knife, warning everyone to stay back. But before dealing with his main target, the protagonist wants to correct a few regrets from his past life. He says the best way to deal with trash like this is to meet violence with violence. Gripping the large water jug, he knows he won't let the man escape this time. He hurls it, yelling for everyone to get out of the way. The jug smashes against the pervert's head, and he screams in pain. He yells he's going to kill whoever did that, but then his eyes catch the protagonist closing in. Jiang Shan leaps through the air and connects a powerful kick to his head. The pervert is sent flying and struggles to get back on his feet. The protagonist scoffs. "You took a kick like that and you're still standing? You need more training. Come on, get up." The pervert turns, his face filled with fear. But he lunges with the knife, screaming, "Go to hell!" Jiang Shan dodges the attack with incredible ease. He grabs the man's wrist, then raises his own leg as high as it can go. With a single kick, the protagonist shatters his arm. The pervert feels an excruciating pain and collapses to the floor, but he's still breathing, and that infuriates the protagonist. He lunges at the pervert, beating him relentlessly and calling him a bastard. The man's face becomes completely disfigured. "No matter how much time passes," the protagonist says, "seeing this face always makes me sick." But a girl calls out to her classmate, "If you keep hitting him, you're going to kill him." The protagonist thinks, so it's her. He notes her courage. The girl asks him to stop staring at her like that, saying it's making her feel awkward. Then, they just stand there, looking at each other. A police car arrives, and the pervert is taken into custody. An officer approaches the protagonist. "That joint dislocation technique was very professional," he remarks. Jiang Shan replies that he learned it on TV, that it was just a trick. The officer responds, "That's the kind of technique even regular soldiers don't learn." He then moves his hand forward, asking, "So what does TV teach you to do in a situation like this?" But the protagonist just stares him down with a serious expression. It's not very cool for a police officer to put a civilian in a chokehold. The officer wonders to himself what kind of kid this is. But the girl grabs the policeman's shirt. "I can testify that the thug pulled the knife first," she says. "But even so, he shouldn't have beaten him nearly to death." The protagonist watches this, slightly surprised. Back in his neighborhood, he opens the door to his house. He calls out to his mom, letting her know he's home. "So you still know the way back," she says. "We're waiting for you to have dinner." "What kind of student are you coming home without your backpack? Your father just spoils you too much." She tells him to go wash his hands, but the protagonist calls out to his mother and hugs her. His mother asks what's wrong and if he was mistreated outside. After a few minutes, they finish setting the table for dinner. His mother wants to know why he seems so strange today and if he's not feeling well, or if it's the pressure from his studies lately, but the protagonist tells her not to worry, that he's fine. From now on, he'll be obedient. His mother says it'll be enough if he just causes less trouble. She just wants him to finish his studies so his father can find him a steady job. The protagonist thinks to himself that when he was alive, he was so talkative. In his room at nightfall, the protagonist rests, saying he misses the days when he didn't have to worry about a bullet near his head. Ordinary people have to struggle just to maintain a simple happiness, but villains can destroy it so easily. Since he has a new life, he will change this world and leave no regrets behind. The next morning, at the school, the protagonist greets an older man who congratulates the boy for his bravery. The girls whisper that it's Jiang Shan from class 15, saying he's handsome and a good fighter. A teacher also congratulates the protagonist and says the principal is going to give him an award. Jiang Shan thinks that he didn't expect this. He never thought saving someone would draw so much attention. Entering the classroom, his classmates are talking about how he flew into action, his fists the size of sandbags. Another guy said that yesterday's move looked like Chang Wei hitting Lai Fu. The protagonist asks if he wants to learn, because he can teach him. But the nerd slams his pen on the desk, annoyed. He says it was just a fight, and yet he's acting like he won a prize. Slamming his hand on his desk, the protagonist asks what the class monitor, Yang, wants, because he's the only one who didn't turn in yesterday's English homework. The protagonist hands in the assignment and says that for him, even the class monitor comes to collect it personally. A bald guy calls the boy Master, and asks if he should really call him that. But the paper is torn, and the nerd says this assignment doesn't count. Now he's going to write the English homework again. The bald guy asks if Yang Tianli is crazy for tearing up the protagonist's homework. Yang orders him to rewrite it 10 times and turn it in before the end of class. Then the classmate asks why they're trying to start trouble, but the brute next to Yang tells him to shut up, because the monitor is talking, and an idiot like him has no right to interfere. Jiang Shan says he'll do the homework, but Yang will have to apologize. Yang asks what he would apologize for. The protagonist replies, "For that disgusting attitude of yours." The brute gets angry and lunges with a punch, telling him to watch his words, but the protagonist just dodges by moving his body to the side. The idiot retorts that he's good at dodging. A girl enters the room and hears him telling the protagonist to dodge the next blow, but the protagonist dodges again, and the brute stumbles towards her. The protagonist is surprised by this and rushes forward. The fist grazes the girl because the protagonist managed to pull her away. He asks if she's okay, and the girl says it was nothing serious, just a little scratch. Jiang Shan gets angry. They've gone too far. Appearing behind the brute, he thinks that hands that harm the innocent are worse than having no hands at all. Then he breaks one of the idiot's arms. He screams repeatedly for his hand. Yang grabs a desk and tells that piece of trash to go to hell. The protagonist dodges easily and grabs the nerd, pinning him against the wall. Then he moves quickly to hit him. But a teacher asks what they're doing and if they've lost their minds. He also asks if Jiang Shan is addicted to fighting and thinks he owns the school. The girl calls out to the dean of discipline, saying it was Han Chong. But the dean tells her to be quiet and for Jiang Shan to come with him to the office. In his office, the dean questions why he got into a direct conflict with Yang Tianli. Jiang Shan asks if he was just supposed to take the insult, but the dean says his father is a big shot. Even the principal avoids messing with him, and Jiang Shan will be the one to lose. When you're young, everyone is hot-blooded, but sometimes you just have to swallow your pride. For now, just go write an apology letter and behave from now on. Outside, the protagonist thinks about how he's expected to just take it, and how the tree may want peace, but the wind never stops. The bald guy says he's back, and everyone celebrates his victory. The girl offers the protagonist some water and thanks him. Han Chong gets angry seeing this. He mutters that this kid is showing off again. He asks if they're just going to swallow this humiliation, and if he should call his friends to jump him after school, doubting he could handle a 10-on-1 fight. But Yang replies that it's not necessary. He was too impulsive before, but on second thought, valuing violence is a mark of inferiority. This world runs on rules, and those who know how to use them are the ones who rule from the top. He calls Secretary Zhao, who asks if it's Tianli. Yang says he has a question. He wants to know the best way to send someone to a juvenile detention center. In front of the classroom, Jiang stands with the bald guy. He tries a move, asking what his master thinks of his flying kick. The protagonist tells him not to overdo it, as wide steps can pull a muscle. A girl politely asks to enter the classroom, and everyone is surprised. Lin Shi asks if Jiang Shan is there. People comment that the school's goddess is even more beautiful in person, and that the protagonist is lucky to have gotten close to her. The bald guy asks if he's just going to stand there, since she's calling for him. Outside, Lin Shi asks if he has time tonight. She explains that it's her father's card, and he wants to thank him personally. The name written on the card is Lin Zhenbang, and the protagonist recognizes it. He thinks that Lin Zhenbang was the youngest to achieve the rank of Major General, and is one of the leaders of the new generation in the armed forces, though rumor has it he left the Central Command. The protagonist says that eliminating evil is a duty, and tells her to inform Commander Lin that he didn't need to worry about it. In the Class 15 classroom, the bald guy asks what Lin Shi wanted with him. The protagonist jokes that her father is looking for a son-in-law. Just then, another student appears, saying the principal wants to see him in his office. Inside the office, the principal yells that he's a lawless punk who doesn't follow orders. If Han Chong dies, he will be charged with murder. The protagonist asks about the cranial fracture, noting that the ink is barely dry on the report. The principal asks if he's questioning the medical certificate. Jiang Shan thinks that he didn't even touch the guy's head yesterday. This is definitely a setup by Yang Tianli, but he has to say something, since it's all there in black and white. The protagonist asks if he wants him to visit Han Chong in the hospital right now, so they can see if it was his own accident or a mistake. But he recommends the principal stay out of it, as he's sure Tianli's father is very powerful. The principal shouts after him, thinking that this kid is too sharp for his own good. Suddenly, someone knocks on the door. A police officer says that Jiang Shan is being accused of intentional assault and must come with them for investigation. Standing next to the officers, Tianli laughs. He asks if Jiang Shan wants to play his game and if he can really handle it. He bids the protagonist farewell, but Jiang Shan says the show is just getting started. Inside the interrogation room, the officer says that Han Chong has 3 fractured ribs. The report is very clear, so he should just confess. He needs to tell the truth and explain why he beat a classmate so badly. The protagonist says that instead of wasting time trying to get a confession, they should check Han Chong's transfer records, but he won't say anything nothing else until his lawyer arrives. Besides, the cameras were off and they haven't even presented an arrest warrant. And they're not in uniform, have no identification, and are making one procedural error after another. This whole approach is completely amateur. It seems the police department is hiring just about anyone these days. The officer wonders who this kid is and how he knows so much about the system. They should call their superior, because at least he should know how to follow the rules. But someone enters the room and asks about rules. Chief Dong Li says that rules don't apply to everyone. It's his own fault for messing with the wrong people, and now he must sign his confession. Plus, if he cooperates, he can get his sentence reduced by 3 years. The protagonist laughs. They're really sucking up to Tianli's father. So, he must have guessed he's just the deputy chief and is desperate to climb the ladder. But those who step on others to get ahead are bound for a hard fall. And with a body like that, the fall will be brutal. Dong Li shouts for him to shut his mouth. He grabs the insolent brat's shirt, thinking he can frame him. But the rookie announces there's a call from the military district command. Dong Li is surprised and tells him he can answer it. However, the protagonist says the chief can take it, he'll wait. Dong Li wonders why the command is calling right now. Could it have something to do with this kid? The protagonist asks what's wrong, if he's not going to answer. The leader on the phone orders them to release him immediately. Dong Li tries to say it was just protocol, but another guy kicks the door in saying this is a pain. Changshan hates talking to these government types who just beat around the bush. Dong Li asks what they're doing barging in like that, saying it also violates protocol. But Changshan says he's annoying and that protocol is all that ever comes out of his mouth. Then he points a gun, saying this is his protocol. In the interrogation room, Dong says he's all in one piece and that nothing happened. Changshan asks why they arrested him, daring to mess with one of Colonel Lin's people. Dong Li replies that it was all a misunderstanding. The protagonist thinks that even though he was a little late, he still arrived in time. Earlier, he had handed a piece of paper to the bald man. He told him to call this number if he didn't return soon. He thinks that if he hadn't been cautious, he would have fallen right into Yang Tianli's trap. Changshan says this is the formal protocol he wanted, and that he should sign and release him. Dong Li says he'll do it immediately. He thinks that pulling a gun inside the police station is something only a lunatic would do. This time, the Yang family messed up. The Lin family has long arms in the capital. This kid, with military backing, is definitely not ordinary. I need to find a way to fix this relationship. In the car, a colleague calls out to advisor He and asks if pulling out the gun earlier wasn't against the rules. Changshan asks what rule he broke. If no one talks, no one will know. He tells him to just drive. Then he introduces himself to Jiang and thanks him for saving his superior's daughter. The protagonist greets him, thinking that Uncle Lin already saved him once, so now they're even. Changshan says the two things aren't related. He heard from Heir that the young man was a good fighter and got curious about how good he really was. Jiang says it seems Uncle He wants to test him, but Changshan tells him not to put it that way. He moves his hand, saying he was just curious. But the protagonist manages to dodge, and Changshan says he's quick. Jiang attacks again, and the advisor says he can dodge too. A knee strike in such a tight space was quite interesting, but the driver complains, "Damn it." There's a patrol at the checkpoint ahead. Both of them are surprised. Changshan congratulates them on their good work. Good thing they didn't see them in the car, he says, because he doesn't want to write a report. The protagonist asks why he's nervous too. In a room at the army headquarters, Changshan informs him that the chief is waiting upstairs and he can go up. He trembles as the protagonist walks by, because this kid is a monster. He's that strong in hand-to-hand combat. Jiang Shan enters the room and calls out to Uncle Lin. The colonel says, "So you're young, Jiang. We finally meet." He then serves him tea, and the protagonist thanks him. Lin says he only has one daughter, and if it weren't for him, she would have lost her life. The protagonist replies that he's exaggerating, and helping someone in danger is every citizen's duty. Lin says he charged an armed man without hesitation, and that he likes his fighting spirit. Then he suggests he take a look at some paperwork. Because Vice Governor Yang has been a bit restless lately, if a tree wants to grow strong and full of leaves, it needs to have its branches pruned from time to time. You went through a lot today, but rest assured, the Yang father and son won't be around for much longer. The protagonist remembers that in his past life, it was around this time that he was arrested. Back then, about 6 million in bribe money mysteriously disappeared, until it was found by chance in 2024 in the rubble of their old house. Lin calls out to young Jiang and asks what he's thinking about. The protagonist cracks a smile and says he was just wondering how the governor would react if his house were robbed. At 3 in the morning on another day, the protagonist's alarm clock rings. He turns off the clock and grabs his backpack, getting ready quickly to leave. He stealthily walks through the living room, noting that his mom stayed up late watching a horror movie. Neither the father nor the son were any good. If he fooled around again, she would break his legs. She told him to come back from school early. The protagonist says he'll be right back. At the Yang family mansion, the protagonist remarks on the number of cameras. No wonder he's a corrupt official. This section has a clean enough angle. He says the timer is ready. The protagonist climbs onto the wall. He leaps far and takes a deep breath. He thinks that in his previous life, the news only said it was hidden in some abandoned ornament in the yard. That much money hidden in an ornament? He wonders if the fountain counts. Jungshan remembers that place, thinking a fountain running in the middle of the night is a bit suspicious, until he notices something different there. Elsewhere, a patrolman comments that he's still sleepy and has to patrol at dawn. He wonders who would have the guts to rob the deputy chief's house, until he hears a noise and turns around asking, "Who's there?" A cat was walking by. The officer says it was just a cat. The feline quickly turns around and Jiang Shan emerges from the water. He thinks that hiding it in a place like this, it's no wonder it was never seized. He was very lucky to find it on the first try, but 6 million is more than he imagined, and the backpack he prepared probably won't fit at all. Until the protagonist notices a plant cart. That bag of money, he wonders what to do with it. Maybe cryptocurrencies or investing online, but just thinking about it makes him happy until a car speeds by. Yang gets out of the car, taunting for Jiang Shan to go to jail. He says he's just like this pile of trash and should stay in the garbage can, kicking the bag. But he's surprised. It's not trash. It's money. He wonders if he's had too much to drink and why there would be money on the street. Jiang Shan chops the back of Yang's neck. Before calling others trash, you should look at yourself. He questions if he's good for anything. A minor driving without a license, and drunk on top of it. The perfect playboy. And he kicks him, saying his mother was right. Neither of them was any good. The protagonist pulls out a knife and laughs at him, saying that taking his life isn't worth it, but giving him a little gift is fine. He holds Yang's head and cuts his hair. There, all done. He didn't think such detailed work would be so tiring. Yang is left hairless on the ground. The protagonist says he hopes his dear class representative is satisfied when he wakes up tomorrow. Back home, his mother calls for her son, and the boy asks for 5 more minutes. She says if he takes any longer, she won't make him breakfast, as she's about to rush off to the temple to pray. The kitchen knife was inexplicably covered in hair. She asks if he thinks a burglar or a ghost got in. The protagonist doesn't answer, and his mother asks if he stayed up late again, telling him not to. The next day, the official walks along, humming. The real meaning of work is getting to leave it. If he didn't have to, it would be even better. Until he notices a drunk on the ground and kicks him, asking if he knows who owns this street. If he wants to die, he should do it far from here. Yang asks who the bastard is that dares to speak to the young master like that. The official quickly recognizes him and asks how. Yang complains about the commotion so early, saying it's giving him a headache, until he feels a strange sensation in his hand and wonders why it feels so prickly. He looks at the ground and notices his hair. He asks who did this, vowing he'll have his father destroy them. No matter who it is, if he can put one of them in jail, their whole family will go down with them. He runs to his father, saying he was being assaulted and telling him to shoot these people. But then he sees the scene and gets angry. He wants to know what's happening and why his father is being arrested. He tells his father not to go with them, demanding to know by what right they're taking him and that they should release him now. An officer asks if he's Yang Tianli. He explains he's from the anti-corruption department and that his father is suspected of serious violations. They need his cooperation for the investigation, which surprises Yang. His father says he can't help him this time. He tells him to be obedient, and Yang starts to cry. Later, in the classroom, the bald guy tells his friend not to sleep, saying something huge happened. He heard they arrested Yang Tiali's father. He asks why he doesn't seem surprised. Jiang says that you reap what you sow. He was dying of sleepiness, so he tells him to stop making noise. The bald guy asks what he did last night, since he looks so worn out and has a slightly damp smell on him. The protagonist replies that he went fishing in the river and caught a fish weighing over 100 kilos. In his past life, this political turmoil swept through almost the entire city. But the strange thing is that this time, Yang Tianli's father was arrested a little earlier than expected. A simple flap of a butterfly's wings can change the course of a distant storm, and his return to life might slightly alter the timeline of fate. But enough of that. He has a very real problem: how to spend these 6 million. His goal is revenge, and he has the money for it, but 6 million is nowhere near enough to build a force against Chen. Maybe he should invest it to make it grow. For example, buying this building and living off the rent. Poor people really think like this. The safest idea he can come up with is becoming a landlord. He should have studied more, at least he'd know more things. Then, in an alley, he notices someone beating a man on the ground. The protagonist thinks to himself that security here is terrible, but this street is the shortest path, so he'll just wait for them to finish fighting. The thugs demand his money. He begs for mercy, saying he didn't bring anything with him. The protagonist wonders if that's the government director. Even the powerful get crushed by their superiors. One of the thugs holds a pipe and calls him a miserable old man. He says, "You won't learn until you're staring at your own coffin," and hits him on the head. The director immediately faints and falls to the ground. The thugs wonder if they killed him, but they're not sure. But there's only one way to find out. Just then, the protagonist leaps toward them and strikes with a knee. He knocks down the thug, who yells, "Where the hell did this kid come from?" The director recognizes Jiang Shan, but the protagonist says they've met again. He asks what happened and if he wasn't comfortable in his office. The thugs groan in pain on the ground. The director asks what the protagonist is doing there. Jiang Shan says that's what he was about to ask, wanting to know how he ended up in this situation. Dong replies that he was getting to know the reality of the people. It was a visit in disguise. The protagonist scoffs, "A visit in disguise?" They beat him until his teeth fell out. His disguised visit was humiliating because he has no sense of danger. Dong tells the protagonist to join public service or take the police exam, saying he'd hire him as a security guard. Jiang Shan dismisses it as nonsense, saying he has another matter to discuss. The director says his car is nearby and they should go talk. The more he looks at him, the more promising he seems. These kids really didn't hold back. When you're 18, all it takes is getting angry for common sense to disappear. The protagonist asks why he's criticizing him indirectly, and the director says he's that age too. "How could I compare you to them? You're a young hero. It's only thanks to you that my old bones are still in one piece today." Jiang Shan tells him not to beat around the bush. Security needs to be reformed. It keeps causing problems. Dong agrees, saying it can't wait, but he wants to know about Officer Lin. The protagonist says he cares a lot about security, and that the director should stop making these visits if he wants to advance his career. The director questions what he's saying. Jiang Shan replies that there's a way to make money. He needs a reliable partner. That east side of the old downtown area is going to be demolished soon. Dong asks if he means they should get ahead of it. Jiang Shan tells him to watch the road, or he'll lose his life before they even start. But the director points out that he's proposing something that requires a lot of money and connections. The protagonist says he has the money and can arrange the connections. What he needs is someone to solve problems and make everything look legal. He asks if Director Dong is interested in securing his retirement. Dong is shocked to hear this. Dong says that if he's going to trust him, he'll go all in. From now on, Jiang Shan is his nephew. Jiang Shan agrees, saying it'll be a successful partnership. He asks about the demolition, and the director is surprised, saying his new nephew is a clever one. The next day in the classroom, a student says it's time for first period. The students are in their room studying. Suddenly, Yang enters the room and calls for the protagonist. He then kneels, saying he's begging. He admits he was an idiot before, but he wants him to save his father. He says only he can talk to the Lin family and get his father out of jail. He'll do anything. The cloth on his head falls off, and everyone in the class sees that he's bald now. They start laughing at Leader Yang, asking if he's become a monk. Yang says he still has the air of a young master and that they should show some respect. Jiang wonders why he shaved it all off and if he didn't like the haircut. The young master thinks to himself that if he had known that idiot would screw up so badly, he wouldn't look so ridiculous now. The protagonist tells him to get up, saying a man doesn't kneel so easily and that crying on the floor is pathetic. Yang asks if he's going to help. The protagonist says no, because his father was arrested according to the law and he knows what he did. Instead of looking for favors, he should cooperate with the investigation. And now, class is about to start. Yang starts crying desperately, wiping his face. Then he tells him to just wait, warning that what Jiang has, he won't have for much longer. The bald guy asks if the protagonist is cursing him to go bald too. On the protagonist's street, the thugs complain that they're still sore from yesterday's beating. The boss and the fat guy are in the hospital. Yang tells them to shut up and get things ready. One of them lights a Molotov cocktail and says that fighting is one thing, but setting a fire is a serious crime. Yang asks what he's afraid of, saying it will look like an accidental fire, so he's going to burn everything down, and they'll all go to hell together. He will face oblivion. But the protagonist, from a tree, asks if Leader Yang is wandering around at dawn because he came to recite poetry under his window. Yang asks who's there. He's shocked to see Jiang Shan. Yang then asks what he's doing here. Shouldn't he be asleep by now? Yang orders his two goons to attack him. One of the guys says he's the one who beat them up yesterday. Jiang Shan asks them how Yang usually treats them, saying now is the time to pay him back. They start arguing about who should go first. The protagonist asks what difference it makes. They were all going to hell anyway. He then lunges at them. He strikes one of the goths on the head with his hand. Blood splatters, and the goth falls to the ground. The bottle drops to the ground. Yang yells that he's useless and orders his other friend forward. The guy asks if he's supposed to fight this monster. He runs away, saying he left the gas on at home. Yang yells that he's a miserable traitor, but the protagonist asks where he's looking, staring at him with killing intent. But but Yang says he won't even get close and that he's going to burn him. The protagonist rushes towards him. He grabs Yang's hand. The young man thinks that he's fast, strong, and that there's no way to win alone. Yang says he was just kidding, that they're just classmates. The protagonist replies that if they're classmates, he should do him a favor and stay quiet from now on. Yang asks what he means by that. The protagonist hits him on the chin, telling him to shut up because he doesn't want to wake up his mother. Yang says he's going to call the police, but Zhang says that crying is also a public disturbance. A police car approaches. An officer says they received a report of illegal activity nearby, and that he's arresting this treacherous guy. Yang asks if they're going to arrest him. He asks if the man is blind, since he's been the one attacking him all along. And Dong Li is a traitor too, doing this after everything his father did for him. But the director says his father hasn't had time to teach him how to be a good officer. He tells him the most important thing is knowing how to read the room. Those who misjudge the situation are playing with fire, and they'll get burned. He orders them to take the man away. Then he thanks him for his hard work, especially in the middle of the night. He tells him to find a relaxing project. The protagonist tells him to get some sleep, as they have important business to attend to tomorrow. The next day, in another building, Dong Li complains about the horrible road. He says such a rundown place can't be worth much, and questions if they can really get rich from it. The protagonist says he'll give him some inside information. This area is about to be included in the satellite city's expansion plan. A new high-tech hub is going to make the land values skyrocket. Dong exclaims that he definitely chose the right person to follow. Zhang thinks to himself that they're just using each other. He plans to grab a hefty slice of the pie. Then he says there are still many places to visit. He walks into a shop and tells the owner to sign on the line. The 15,000 will be his. Dong remarks that it's a nice bar and asks why he's selling it. The old man explains that his son racked up gambling debts. Debt collectors have been showing up, and if he doesn't pay up soon, they'll take the building. Dong shouts, "What an ungrateful son." The protagonist realizes something is off. The debt collection is happening sooner than it should. It's too much of a coincidence. He asks who his son borrowed the money from. The old man replies, "Who else? It was Chen Jinhu." Another strange thing is that when he came to collect, he seemed more interested in the bar than the debt itself. The protagonist says he understands and tells Director Hong to get the contract. Now is not the time to relax. There's someone else in the game, just like them, waiting for the right moment. A man smokes a cigar while a woman tries to get his attention. She says that filthy street below can't compare to this magnificent view. The man replies, "You don't understand anything. A king must survey his territory." The woman then asks if that makes her his queen. Chen Jinhu laughs at her for saying that. He is the king of shadows, ruler of Jiangcheng for 20 years. His businesses are spread all over, earning him the nickname Half City from some. Others say that after midnight, he is the city's true ruler. In the car, Dong warns that Jinhu is a rabid dog. If he gets wind of this opportunity, on top of that, he has connections to the Chen family from the capital. The protagonist's face darkens at the mention of them. He thinks to himself that he's finally found a lead on that bastard. Dong asks if he knows the Chen family too. The protagonist replies that he knows a little about them. "But you're right about one thing," he adds. "Chen Jinhu is nothing but a rabid dog raised by the Chen family. If that dog dares to reach out its paw, I'll cut it off." He tells old Dong to keep buying up the buildings, promising the money will be secured. He thinks to himself that the debt the Chen family owes him from his past life will be collected with interest. Chen Jianhu gets angry. "What did you just say?" "The bar in the old town, it's been sold," his subordinate confirms. "Yes, our informant said the old man sold it." Jianhu slaps him across the face, yelling that this is unacceptable. "We set everything up perfectly. We even drugged him and we still got outsmarted." He orders them to investigate. Outside, other subordinates tell the manager that Boss Tiger is furious, but the manager tells them to calm down, assuring them that they're already investigating. He shows them a photo. It looks like the other party is just a student. The one with him is Dong Li. Jianhu notes that Dong Li always kissed up to the Yang family. Even after their downfall, he managed to stay untouched. But this student, who is he? He doesn't look like he's from the underworld. Dong is still a police chief, so we can't confront him directly. Investigate that student. I want everything you can find on him in 3 days. And you, he tells his secretary, keep an eye on that bar and find out what their next move is. If you screw this up, I'll have you castrated. Elsewhere, the protagonist enters a bar. The bald guy calls out to him, warning that this is Jinhu's territory. They say he's terrifying. Zhang Shan tells him to just stick to the plan. Just stay put and don't move. You can play on your phone to pass the time. If things go south, I'll handle it. You won't get hurt. The bald guy remarks that he's still young to be in a place full of bright lights and booze. Zhang Shan replies, well then, I guess you don't want that PlayStation 5 anymore. You can just go home. The kid quickly changes his tune. The protagonist sighs and tells him to stay hidden and wait for his signal. I came to pay a visit to the Emperor of the Underworld. I hope he won't disappoint me. He thinks to himself, good thing I was part of a raid on this casino in my past life. I know the secret passage is this way. He knocks, and a secretary opens the door. We're closed for today. You can leave. Jiang remembers from the files that "we're closed" is the code. Whether you're open or not depends on my luck. That's the correct response. The secretary continues to stare at him. He welcomes him inside, asking if he's new here or if it's his first time. The protagonist tosses a wad of cash into the air. I recognize this little toy. Now show me the best you've got. The secretary claps his hands and several women dressed in bunny outfits appear. Elsewhere, a man desperately begs to win his money back, crying that his family will be out on the street. A woman comments that people like him seem cursed. But it's clear luck is on your side tonight, she says to the protagonist. Zhang Shan replies that gambling isn't a game of luck. The woman asks, then what is it? The protagonist says, you should know better than anyone. He asks to exchange 10,000 for chips. The chips are handed over with a wish of good luck. Many people think gambling is all about luck, but it's actually a psychological battle. It also involves a few little tricks. The dealer announces he's dealing the cards. Zhang Shan gets an ace, a king, and a queen. A good hand, he thinks. The large man next to him catches his eye. The protagonist analyzes him. His twitching ears are a sign that he has a good hand. The long-haired man is harder to read, but his long pinky nail is a tell. He uses it for other purposes, like marking the cards. The dealer asks if anyone wants to raise. The large man raises by 5,000. The long-haired man calls, but the protagonist goes all in. The large man thinks, an all in? Does this kid really have that good of a hand? He wonders if he's bluffing. Zhang Shan says it's his first time playing. If your cards are that good, you should bet more. But if not, that's fine too. The other two players fold. The dealer announces the pot goes to the kid. Before the next shuffle, they have to show their cards. They're shocked to see the protagonist's hand. The large man exclaims that his own hand was better. He thought the kid had a straight. He's eager to win his money back, but the protagonist moves to the next table. That trick won't work twice on the same people. The blonde woman returns, remarking how quickly he won everything. Luck is certainly on your side. She suggests he buy her a drink. The protagonist declines, saying he's still in school. The woman is surprised. The protagonist asks if there's a faster game. The blonde points him toward another game. At one table, men are shouting, small or large? A man is shaking a cup with dice inside. The protagonist thinks. The frequency of the shake and the point of impact suggest a high number, but the sound is muffled. Then he hears it. The last die landed with the 6 facing down. The dealer calls out, place your bets now. No changes after this. The protagonist pushes his chips forward. I bet everything on large. And once again, the result is a high number. The dealer thinks something's wrong. He's not wearing X-ray glasses or anything. The protagonist tells him to keep it going. I'm exhausted. I need to win fast so I can go to sleep. The employee thinks, he wants to win fast? Because if this keeps up, I don't know how I'm going to explain this to the boss. In his office, Jinhu asks, where did this guy come from? Does he think this is a charity? I've never heard of anyone wanting to stop while they're ahead. He orders his manager to bring in the Japanese woman. The chips keep piling up, and the other guys say the protagonist must have already won millions. But they'd never seen the house lose this badly. Knowing Jiang Hu, he'll sell him into prostitution. Suddenly a door behind them opens, and a woman walks out. She heads toward the table. She tells the dealer he can leave. Then she turns her eyes to the protagonist. Zhang Shan thinks the woman looks familiar. Then the manager announces that Miss Chizuru Yashima will personally deal with the protagonist. Jiang thinks he saw her in the Golden Triangle. The girl picks up the dice cup and tells the protagonist to place his bet. Shibuya, 2019. Chizuru says it's too noisy, but Jiang replies it's not that bad. The woman says that loud, dangerous, chaotic, and vibrant was the night side of Shibuya, but this kind of worldly atmosphere is rare to find. Jiang Shan agrees because it was true, but Chizuru tells him not to close his eyes. She climbs onto the table saying Mr. Jiang's eyes are like a wolf's, and she likes that sharp coldness. The protagonist replies that she's like a dangerous cat herself. Chizuru says cats don't care about secrets. They just want to make you happy for the night. That night, she was drunk and talked non-stop. She said that to truly listen to the dice, you had to feel their breath, to perceive the subtlest language of an opponent's muscles, as if he could feel her heartbeat. He recalls this in the present as Chizuru shakes the cup. The protagonist closes his eyes but opens them immediately. Her hands were relaxed, but her muscles were tense. He also noticed the fold in the fabric. Chizuru tells the protagonist to call his bet. He smiles and goes all in, calling a 666. Everyone is shocked. He bet everything on a triple, which is impossible. Jiang tells her to reveal the dice. Chizuru moves her hand to the cup and reveals he was right. Everyone is completely stunned. and the manager says that doubles his winnings to over 50 million. They meet again in an even noisier place. He thanks Chizuru for her help. Back at his base, Jang-hoo demands to know which bastard wrecked his casino. His employee runs to him and says he saw everything. The guy who caused all the trouble is the same student who bought the bar. Jang-hoo screams that he also took his money and asks where the justice in this world is. He tells them to grab their weapons. He's going with them to dig up the kids' ancestors and feed them to the dogs. At the exchange counter, the man asks if he wants to cash everything out. Jang tells him to hurry up. It's time for Dungji to make his move. From behind him, Jang-hoo says, "You destroyed my place and now you think you can just run away? Then you can just hand over your life." But suddenly the lights go out and then come back on. An employee asks the manager where Boss Tiger is. Jang-hoo was thrown on the floor and everyone calls for help for the boss. The protagonist says, "Even my hand hurts from hitting such thick skin. We should get out of here." He asks if his friend is in the electrical room and a blonde woman asks what he's looking for. She thinks he's looking to lose his life. The protagonist tells the auntie to let him go home, but the blonde tells him not to call her that, and her subordinates have to get him, because nobody leaves the casino with money. The delinquents tell the kid to hand over the money peacefully before they mess up his pretty face. Jang Shan replies that he predicted everything except getting involved with a woman. Miss Lee says he has offended her boss, Tiger. The protagonist puts the briefcase on the ground and says the little bunny was working for the tiger, but it doesn't matter. They're just a few more small fry. To save time, they should all come at once. One of the delinquents says he's getting too cocky, and they'll have to go through him first. The protagonist rushes towards him and grabs the arm of the delinquent holding the bat. Jiang Shan readies his fist and throws the guy away. The other delinquents call out to their big bro. The protagonist turns and asks the others, "Are you still going to come one by one?" The two of them hesitate for a moment, then shout for everyone to attack. Jiang says that's more like it, because useless trash like them should be eliminated all at once. He kicks both of them in the head. He lands on the ground afterward. Lee wonders if this is real. Were they all defeated by a single brat? The protagonist says, "Now it's the auntie's turn." She runs off screaming, and Jiang wonders how she can run in high heels. GA shows up right after and asks if the protagonist finished them all off. He found out they had a backup generator and cut the cables for the entire street. "We're good at this. We should drop out of school and become full-time criminals." The protagonist just tells him to go, and G asks him to wait up. Lee asks why the whole street lost power and finds the manager. She says she found them and they need backup, that the kid is insane. But the manager raises his hand and slaps her across the face for letting the boy escape. Lee says it wasn't her, but the manager replies that he saw everything on camera and that she definitely set this up with them. The girl insists she's loyal to Boss Tiger, but the manager says he doesn't care. He just needs someone to take the fall. He tells them to take her away and make her talk. The girl begs the manager not to, swearing it won't happen again. At school the next day, a teacher tells the class to open their books to page 17. Knowing that line A is parallel to line B, the protagonist thinks that Chen Jinhu must be too busy to deal with the old city acquisition. The advance is going well, but they can't get greedy. If news of the demolition leaks on a large scale, prices will skyrocket and attract a pack of hungry wolves. They have to quit while they're ahead. With all this cash, the next step is to set up his own security company and find some allies. He remembers there are several experts who are against the Chen family. The teacher asks the student to answer if line F intersects with line A, but the protagonist doesn't understand the question. The teacher says he's a lost cause, always skipping class and still wanting to take the college entrance exams. Zhang says he's listening, and the answer is banana. The teacher replies that the monthly test is coming up, and he won't let him drag the class down. He'll be staying for remedial lessons after school. Zhang asks why he has to, since G sleeps through every class and even talks in his sleep. But the bald guy is saying that the intersection of A and F is Q, so it doesn't intercept. Because if you place fourth in the year, you can sleep all you want. The protagonist questions this, walking outside and heading to another classroom. A girl says he's late, and the protagonist agrees. But even in remedial class, they're on his case for being late. Lin Shi says that good habits are the beginning of everything. He recognizes the girl by her voice. Lin Shi asks, "Could it not be me?" The protagonist asks if she's also here for remedial class, but the girl replies that she's the teacher for this class. But Zhang questions how she can be. Lin Shi says she's first in their year, and the boy thinks they're a bunch of monsters. The girl also says she got the courage after she heard he was coming, so she made sure to ask the teacher to let her be the instructor. Therefore, he must try his best. The girl pulls on his tie, saying she only came because of him, so he should behave and listen to his teacher. Jiang thinks she's too close and wonders what she's trying to do. The protagonist's face turns red, and she wonders if he's always stuck with that stone-faced expression. Jiang asks if this isn't supposed to be a remedial class, and tells her to let go because he can't breathe. Lin Shi asks if the weight is A and the coefficient is B. What is the tensile force? The protagonist replies that this was supposed to be math, and a bad student like him shouldn't start with physics. The girl goes to the board, saying they'll start with functions. She starts writing on the board and then looks back. She blushes upon seeing the protagonist. Then she asks him to try and solve for the domain of this function. The protagonist asks what a domain is, and the girl asks if he's ever actually studied. Zhang Shan thinks to himself that was in his past life. Lin Shi approaches him, saying he's hopeless, so she'll explain it very slowly. The protagonist replies that she just doesn't need to be so close. Lin Shi says she won't pull his tie, but his bangs are in the way, and she has a hairpin. Jiang replies that it's not necessary, and they should just start the class. To think he's been through all sorts of trouble, but he still gets nervous because of a girl. The day goes by, and just when he thinks it's finally over, the girl tells him not to forget to review what he learned, or else she'll have to give him special reinforcement. The protagonist tells her to get away from him. Outside, the girl asks if he's feeling hot, but she gets his attention. She asks if he hates her, and the protagonist says no. The girl asks if he can be a little kinder, because she has feelings for him. The protagonist questions this, and the girl says she can repeat it without a problem. She's liked him ever since the day he saved her life, so she tried hard to get his attention and acted childishly. She asks if the protagonist feels anything for her. Jiang Shan looks surprised but apologizes. He says their paths are different, and he doesn't want to drag her down with him. The girl says if it's because of his grades she can help, and that he should wait for her. Elsewhere, a man drinks wine and calls for Uncle Hu. He had disappointed him greatly, and Jianhu begs the young master for forgiveness. He says that kid is too weird and he doesn't even know how he broke his leg and arm. Chen says he doesn't care what happened. He wants results. Those buildings are a key point for storing goods in the future, and his father values them highly. Jianhu kneels, saying he'll find a way to get them back, and asks for one more chance. Chen says he can do that, but he'd better remember. Then he throws the wine glass to the floor and it shatters. He continues that if he screws up again, he'll be the one breaking next time. Now he must solve this properly, and Jianhu thanks the young master. Chen picks up another glass and fills it with wine, repeating Jiang Shan's name. He was a nobody he'd never heard of, but he still has the guts to challenge the Chen family. This is going to be fun. He wants to know where this kid came from, because he's going to show him what the Chen family can do. Outside, the employees carefully carry Jianhu away. He tells his servant to be careful because his foot is injured and his sneakers were expensive, wanting to be treated like he's their father. Under his sneaker was a listening device, and he could be heard asking why he raised such useless fools. If they weren't so incompetent, he wouldn't be in this situation. They should hurry up and do what the young master ordered. They didn't even do their research before joining the gang. The Chen family only had one young master, and it was Chen Yu. Jiang Shan says he was a bastard and he's finally found him. Blood debts are paid with blood, and he's going to take his life right now. But he thinks he can't do that. If he acts on impulse, he'll compromise himself, and just taking his life would be too little. He has to stay calm. The protagonist opens his eyes. Revenge requires absolute strength and patience. Now he has the initial capital, and the first step is to build a force of his own, one that is absolutely loyal. That way, he can finish them all at once. The next day, he's firing at a shooting range. Changshan says this kid is good, and his stance is better than his own soldiers. He was hitting every single shot dead center. He then asks if he's really a high schooler and not some runaway from a special forces unit. His other soldier says he's exaggerating. With a fixed target and a calibrated gun, it's almost like shooting balloons at a carnival. Changshan looks at him coldly, saying it really is easy and they can change the game. He asks him to come over and toss some casings for him. The soldier thinks he's a cocky kid and throws the casing. Zhang analyzes the projectile and readies his weapon. He fires, hitting it in midair. Everyone is stunned when this happens. The soldier admits he hit it perfectly, and Changshan tells him to stop acting tough. Zhang says if he doesn't believe it, he should do it again, and this time he'll shoot with his eyes closed. Changshan approaches, saying he gives up. The young man is like a god of marksmanship. The protagonist says he just practiced at the carnival shooting gallery. The advisor says he'll have to take his soldiers to train like that someday. Zhang says he actually came because he has a serious request to make. Changshan replies that if it doesn't go against his principles, he'll definitely help. The protagonist explains that he wants to build a security team and hire ex-military personnel. He wants to give them a place where they can show their worth, with a good salary and dignity. They've already sweated and bled too much. They shouldn't be forgotten by life. And with a reliable force by his side, he can also maintain order and eliminate certain corrupt pests. Changshan says he's young, but dreams big, so whatever he needs from him, he just has to ask. The protagonist smiles back. He says he needs a reliable source of people, and perhaps his help in obtaining the necessary licenses. Changshan says he can leave that part to him. He'll give him the address of a center for ex-soldiers run by one of his veterans. They only have top-notch people there, so the kid should go for it because he wants to see him succeed. If he runs into any trouble, he can come to him. The protagonist thinks that Chen Yu's nightmare has just begun. At home, he notices the name on the paper is Bai Peng. The next day, he's walking through the area, thinking that the layout of the slum is more complicated than he imagined, but this must be the place. He then calls out to someone and says he's looking for Bai Peng. The man replies that he's not providing services today and to come back tomorrow. Jiang says he didn't come to get anything fixed and was sent by Counselor He. Bai Peng stares at him coldly. The protagonist replies that he gave him this address and wants to talk, then introduces himself. Bai Peng replies that he only fixes things. He doesn't talk. Matters unrelated to work are of no interest to him. Jiang says he came precisely to talk about work that could change his current situation. Bai Peng says he doesn't understand. The protagonist says he's a wasted talent, a diamond in the rough, or simply short on cash. Bai Peng questions who gave him the right to mess with an adult. The protagonist replies that he's being sincere. He pays, and the sergeant gives loyalty. The man questions if he still thinks he has the right to say such words. He doesn't know his relationship with Changshan, but if he's the one who sent him, he should have explained that money isn't enough. Jiang replies that he knows that, and that beasts need to be tamed with a whip. Bai Peng replies that he doesn't have a whip, and picks up a chopstick from the ground, saying this will have to do. The protagonist readies himself. He explains that the first one to drop their chopstick loses. Jiang looks a bit hesitant but says it would be his pleasure. He then lunges at him, his eyes turning red with complete focus. He plants his feet on the ground and then leaps, striking his chopstick against Bai Peng's. The soldier manages to block the blow with his strength, but he's startled when he notices something. The protagonist prepares another strike, pivoting on his foot. He then strikes the ground and Bai retreats. The protagonist comments that his defense is good and asks about his attack. Bai Peng holds both chopsticks and asks if he wants to try. He advances quickly, but the protagonist dodges. He then moves to the side and counterattacks with a kick. But it was a feint that surprises Bai. A child arrives, telling his brother he's back and that the teacher praised him. Bai shouts for Xiaofei to get out of there now. The protagonist continues his advance but stops the chopstick well away from his brother. Bai asks if he's okay, and the boy confirms it, adding that the protagonist was incredible, like a flash of lightning. He asks who would win if they really fought. Bai Peng faces the protagonist and tells him to come inside if he wants to talk. These are Xiaofei's medicines. He says he's right. He needs to change his situation, and talking doesn't mean he's admitting defeat. If his brother hadn't shown up, he would have taken that chopstick from him. He's accepting because his brother was saved. He knows the rules, so his life belongs to the protagonist now. Zhang says he doesn't need him taking lives and burning things down. He wants to build a company, and he needs a loyal team ready to face any battle, and someone who can be the blade that commands respect and trains the team. Therefore, it was time for Bai Peng to get back in action. He has to admit, this platoon photo from his discharge looks great. They look so full of hope and energy. Bai replies that ideals and reality are opposites. After being screwed over several times, all hope dies. Society's trash doesn't care about others. Anyway, he won't dwell on it. He asks his new boss to sit down for some tea. The protagonist asks to be called just Jiang Shan, and from what he says, he's already been through a lot in life. Fighting with everything he had just to protect scum who trample on others' dignity was something he found unacceptable. Bai asks him what he means by that. The protagonist continues, saying that people bleed and sweat only to meet such an end, and that the best warriors shouldn't be erased by life. He wants to create a place where veteran brothers like him can have dignity and a sense of belonging. They will join forces to ensure everyone's livelihood. But when dealing with mafias and people exploiting the common folk, they will be the fist and shield that protects everyone. That's why he needs a blade forged in war like him. Bai Peng calls out to the protagonist, saying that he trusts him completely. From now on, wherever he points, that's where Bai Peng will advance. He then extends his fist to him. A smile spreads across the protagonist's face. He tells him to take care of matters at home and find a way together to cure Xiaofei's illness. Then he says he'll wait for his return. Elsewhere, the protagonist is walking when he sees some children playing in the street. Suddenly, he notices something, a shadow behind a house. The shadow disappears immediately. Jiang thinks it was a sloppy tale and wonders if they were Chen Jinhu's thugs. He then says they really don't know when to quit and tells them to come out. Lin Shi says that's a pretty harsh way to put it. The protagonist is surprised to see her and asks why she's following him. He tells her this is no place for her. The girl replies that it's not a place for him either, and she can't let him skip class like this. Besides, she's worried about him. The protagonist says she's the one who should be worried, as they are on different paths and he has to face dangers. The girl asks if it was a gang, but the protagonist tries to change the subject. Just then, the girl warns him that a car is coming. She questions why it's moving so fast, and the protagonist tells her to hide to the side. But the girl runs towards him, pushing the protagonist out of the car's path. She falls from the impact. Jiang asks if she's okay. The girl says she is, and that she's not afraid of danger. Several guys get out of the car, saying the kid was cold-blooded enough to make time for flirting after offending Boss Tiger. The protagonist tells her to stay hidden and keep her head down. The girl blushes, repeating the word flirting. Those guys charge at Jiang, but the protagonist lands punches on them, and they return the attacks. The girl tries to shout, "Behind you!" A man with 2 knives attempts a strike. Suddenly, a bullet approaches with incredible speed and hits the blade. The delinquent asks what the hell just happened, but that thing on his knife was a bullet, and they want to know where it came from. But some men on a rooftop tell him not to draw a knife in front of Miss Chen again. He says he'll give them 2 options: disappear or lose their lives. Later, in a hospital room, the protagonist remembers her injuries, thinking that if Chen Yu lays a hand on her, he'll make him pay 100 times over. A nurse asks if any of the patient's family is present, and the protagonist asks how she is. The nurse says it's just superficial wounds and a scare. She'll be under observation for the night, and he needs to fill out the admission papers. The protagonist says he's just her classmate. Lin arrives at the hospital and says he is her guardian. The protagonist tries to apologize to Uncle Lin, but he signals for him to be quiet. The protagonist is surprised by this. Inside the room, Lin Xin says she's fine. It was just a minor injury. Besides, she fell on her own, and it has nothing to do with Zhang Shan. She says he protected her really well. Her father says she's already this old and still worries him. Lin Xin mentions that the armed men who scared off the thugs seem to know her and asks if they're from his battalion. Zhenbang replies that they're from his family. There are things more complicated than she can imagine, and she doesn't need to worry. The protagonist thinks that the Lin family must have a lot of influence in Beijing. Zhenbang then tells her to rest, saying he'll be back to see her tomorrow. Outside, the protagonist apologizes, saying he failed to take care of Lin Xin and promises it won't happen again. Lin says that sort of thing means nothing to him. Zhang Shan shouts that, in the end, he got her involved and she got hurt, and he's truly sorry. But Zhenbang says he should be breaking the legs of the bastards who hurt his daughter. The protagonist's eyes light up when he hears this. He says he won't let any of them get away. Lin tells him to keep his word because he'll trust him as many times as it takes, but he has a daughter who can't be put in danger. He tells him he should go home too and not worry his parents. Later, he overhears on a wiretap that Jinhu told Chen Yu about the attack, but that Miss Lin got hurt, so they should wait and see how Lin Zhenbang reacts. Zhang Shan is just a lucky bug and won't last long, but the protagonist thinks that the Chen family's pup thinks too highly of himself. Chen Yu says that once the network is set up, all of Jiang Cheng's businesses will bear his surname, as they are key to the circulation of goods. The protagonist thinks that he knew there was something more to the demolition, but he's found Chen Yu's weak spot. The young master says they should keep an eye on Jiang Shan, and moreover, they shouldn't draw attention. The protagonist thinks he's running out of time and needs to gather his forces before Chen Yu's goods arrive. The next day, in a warehouse, Bai says he followed the list Captain He sent, and this is the first group. The protagonist introduces himself and says, "There are no bosses here, only comrades in arms." This was long done security. A man eyes the protagonist, surprised. He wants to know how old he is, saying he shouldn't be a security guard at a school. He asks if they're supposed to stand guard or patrol. Zhang Shan calls everyone over and tells them to look over there, explaining that before they work, they have to train. A man questions if he's doubting their abilities, but the protagonist replies that it's nothing like that. He just wants them to get back what they've lost. They will train on how to protect targets in hostile environments and react to organized violent attacks, as well as ensuring the complete safety of their clients, and their own safety too. Therefore, he'll demonstrate the training process and Peng should time him, He tells Peng to start the timer and get ready. He starts running forward as the count hits 2 seconds. At 4 seconds, he prepares to jump. By the time the count reaches 7, he's already climbing to the top. At 20 seconds, he's finished everything. Peng continues counting to 23, and the other soldiers say that this kid is not normal. At 57 seconds, the protagonist starts shooting at the targets. He stops at 58 seconds. That soldier says that even though the course is smaller, it has many obstacles, and he's just a high school kid. The protagonist confirms this, but says they will have to be faster than him. Otherwise, he doesn't know if he can trust them. If they can't protect the client and still get hurt, it's unprofessional. That soldier gets furious, saying he'll show him the true king of the battlefield. Long-done security begins to push itself. The fangs are already showing. Chen Yu, his business, and his network would be completely crushed. In front of a local's house, the protagonist knocks on her door. The woman answers and asks who they're looking for. Bai Peng says he's from a new security company, recruiting in the area. He asks how the local security is. Jiang Shan asks if anyone has been collecting protection fees, stealing electric bikes, or if anything has been stolen, or if anyone has disappeared. The woman stammers as she repeats the word. She slams the door, saying no, everything is fine. The two look at each other. Jiang Shan thinks that the following visits were also fruitless. The next visits led nowhere. People either dodged the question or changed the subject, and every time the word disappeared was mentioned, the previously light atmosphere suddenly became heavy. Bai Peng calls out to him, saying these people seem terrified of something. He asks what Jiang Shan is investigating, but Jiang Shan just replies that the snack is good. But to be blunt, he's investigating the Chen family. Bai is stunned by this, saying they're the bosses of Zhang Cheng. The protagonist says he called Director Dong from the police station, and what matters is this. In the last few months around the old downtown area, there have been 7 or 8 registered disappearance cases alone, not counting the unreported ones. He suspects these disappearances are linked to some dirty business of the Chen family. Bai Peng says his boss is stirring up a hornet's nest, until a local shouts that it's the two of them. They're the ones who've been snooping around all day asking about missing people. Bai Peng recognizes him from before. Jiang Shan warns that this part of town is their territory. The men ask if they think they can act tough on their turf, telling them they need to know who's in charge here. Bai Peng tells him to watch his mouth and asks what they're trying to do. Jiang Shan then touches his shoulder, saying they're just talking to the neighbors, but he's squirming like a worm, thinking he owns the street. The man calls him a clueless brat, saying that talking trash always comes with a price. They then charge at them, ready to show them the strength of the 4 dragons of Old Street. The chubby one should charge forward and run them over, using the human bowling ball form. Bai Peng grabs his head, saying he's confused that this technique has a name now, the human bowling ball. He slams his head on the ground. His friends call out to the chubby guy and tell the other two to go after him together, since Scar will take care of Jiang Shan. The guy says he looks like the weaker one. Jiang Shan replies that since he's so weak, he should come and get it over with, because if he can't, it'll be embarrassing later. Scar says he's going to get wrecked today, but the protagonist readies a punch, landing a blow right on his face, and sends the man flying. His men call out to Scar. Jiang Shan says they don't want to cause trouble, so they better not push it and should just take the 2 guys on the ground and leave. The bald guy quickly agrees. Bai Peng asks why he let them go, since they seemed really bothered by the questions. Jiang Shan asks if he's ever been fishing. You can't reel in the line too quickly. You have to let the fish swim a bit. Then he tells him to follow Scar. A few hours later, Scar is walking home. Completely bruised, he looks back. He then deviates from his original path. Bai Peng asks if he's not going home, and wonders where he's going now. Jiang Shan replies that all this secrecy means something is up. Scar continues walking forward, approaching a car while Bai Peng asks what he's talking about. Another man gets out of the car. He goes to the back of it. Jiang Shan says it looks like there's something inside the van, and it's a sack that starts to move. Jiang Shan says he knew it was a kidnapping and wonders how these scumbags have the nerve, and it looks like they're about to take their victim away. He asks if they should watch or follow, suggesting it's better to call the police since this is their job. Jiang Shan stands up, announcing he's the police and they should freeze, leaving Bai shocked. Scar yells that he's a cop, and the other man asks how he followed them here, but the man tells him to wait, recognizing him. It's those 2 guys from earlier, the ones you said let you go. They can't let the police arrive. He pulls out a knife, but Scar says they're not cops, just security. The man says that even if they're security, they're going all out. It doesn't matter who they are. They're going to finish them. Scar explains the problem. They fought the 4 dragons of Old Street today. Jiang Shan approaches the man with the knife, who closes his eyes and tries to attack, but the protagonist easily catches the weapon. The man is terrified, exclaiming about his strength. It was too much. Jiang Shan then throws a punch at him. The man slams his back against the wall. Scar says he warned them and has done his part, but Bai Peng calls out to him, telling him not to even think about running, because that's not right. The underworld code says you share the glory and the risks. Scar says he shared the risks with him earlier today, but the two pretend they forgot. After beating up the two of them, they go to untie the sacks. Bai Peng unties the rope, saying he'll get him out of there right now. But the protagonist then recognizes him. He asks what Yang Tianli was doing there. It's been a while, he says, asking why he's in such a deplorable state. In the interrogation room, Director Dong says it was a pitiful situation. After Yang Tianli's father was arrested, his house was sealed off, and he ended up getting expelled from school. Someone used to luxury was now living on the streets. He was almost kidnapped tonight. Truly, when it rains, it pours. Jiangshan asks about Scar and the others, and Dong replies that he's finished the interrogation. They're just goons, following orders for money. Jiangshan asks why all the mystery. Dong explains they were taking the merchandise to the Yangfeng warehouse complex on the outskirts of the city. They don't know anything beyond that. Jiangshan says he remembers that place belongs to the Chen family. Dong confirms this, saying the paperwork is in order, and it looks like a legitimate business on the surface. Without concrete proof, they can't do much. He suggests they talk in his office. Later, in the director's office, he asks the protagonist to take a look at something, saying he'll understand soon. It was an old town and a warehouse complex. Jiang Shan realizes he understands everything. They're using the chaos of the demolition and the old infrastructure as cover to build a clandestine transport route. If they know something is wrong at the warehouses, he asks why they don't just get a search warrant. Dong says the kid has to understand. Lately, they've been getting orders from above to be cautious with any case involving the Chens. His life isn't easy. Jiang Shan thinks there might be a big shot protecting the Chen family. Or maybe this old fox is just pretending, not wanting to get on the Chen's bad side. He wonders if Dong profited from the destruction of the old town, and if that wasn't the case, Dong tells him not to talk nonsense, as it could be bad for his image. Jiangshan tells him to think long-term. As long as the Chen family doesn't interfere, the next phases of demolition will bring in a lot of money, but the condition is that this pie will be divided among them. And now, the obstacle in their way is the Chen family. Is he going to be content with the crumbs they leave behind? There isn't a moment in life where Dong wants to risk it all. Dong shouts, "To hell with it. For justice and for the residents, he will never collude with evil. He can take it." Jiangshan laughs, saying that was exactly what he wanted to hear. The protagonist tells him to take it. He asks if he's going to back out right after accepting, because he needs the official police investigation assistance document. Dong tells him to look at what it says and asks how he could back out, wondering if he didn't process the information right away. But changing the subject, signing and stamping it is the easy part. He needs to be careful with this investigation. After all, the Chen family is not to be trifled with. Jiangshan tells the director not to worry. He isn't someone to be trifled with either. The cameras have almost no blind spots. The guards are always at their posts. If you don't want to alert anyone, a forced entry is definitely not going to work. Bai Peng asks about the plan, and Jiangshan explains that this is the map he got from director Dong. There's an electric fence near a large tree, and its branches reach inside. That's a blind spot for the cameras. Group A should go in that way. They'll be responsible for cutting the backup power and part of the monitoring system, and you'll go with Brother Peng to the drainage system. Even though there's a grate, it's very rusty. Jiangshan steps forward, saying he'll take action. So they walk to the location. They see the chains around a grate. Bai Peng cuts the chain with a pair of pliers. Jiangshan then points his flashlight, but then he notices something. He says there's movement up there. A yawn can be heard. He comments that he's sleepy, and this angle is a camera blind spot. Besides, this place is so deserted not even a lost soul would show up. He wonders who's going to stand watch, saying they could just sneak off to an internet cafe as the protagonists advance from behind them, striking one of them on the head. Bai Peng tells Jiangshan to be careful, and the protagonist says he knows. He's surprised when he then opens the door, seeing several people locked in cages. A doctor is shining a flashlight into another person's eye. The protagonist says, "No way, this warehouse." Bai Peng says it's bizarre that they've imprisoned so many people here. He wonders what the Chen family plans to do. Is this a concentration camp or human trafficking? This isn't ordinary trafficking. The protagonist replies, "It's about compatibility." Bai Peng asks what he means by that. The protagonist explains, "I mean organ transplants. The Chen family's business is organ trafficking, and these people in here are all lambs to the slaughter." Bai Peng shouts that they're animals for committing such an atrocity against humanity, and that they must save them. Jiangshan tells him to calm down because they need evidence first. So he points his phone's camera, then he does a countdown with his hand, and immediately opens the door. One of them questions who they are, calling them intruders. He demands to know what kind of moron dares to mess with them, saying they will protect the data. Jiangshan tells Brother Peng to control everyone in a white coat and try to preserve as much evidence as possible. The doctor yells for them not to get near him because the data absolutely cannot be destroyed. Another guy warns that Grandpa has arrived and it's not the time to make a mess, but Bai Peng gets ready, striking his face with a kick. The other guards decide to surround him, but then Bai Peng notices something. He realizes they're destroying the data. Jiang Shan exclaims it can't be, that they have to get the evidence, but the more he fights, the more of them appear. He says he'll get the data, and tells Peng to hold the line, until some men ask if he came to save them. One says he just graduated, his life hasn't even started, and he has kids at home. Jiang Shan says the data comes later. Saving people is the priority. They must get every single one of these people out of here alive, without fail. The two of them rescue the hostage, and the rest is up to Director Dong. But this is the most important part. He says this is first-hand evidence of the warehouse complex, including the location of the captivity, the medical procedures, and clips of them trying to hastily destroy the documents. Dong then analyzes the memory card and says the kid really stirred up a hornet's nest this time. The Chen family won't let this slide. Jiang Shan asks if he's getting cold feet again. Director Dong says he's a prudent and cautious man, but after coming this far, he won't back down an inch. There's no turning back now. Whether they can make the Chen family bleed or not depends on this moment. The next day, everyone is commenting on how horrifying it is, saying they're too scared to even leave their homes at night. Then a man buys a newspaper, saying he heard everyone talking about how terrible it was, and wants to know if something serious happened around here. The vendor says it's wonderful news. His son had been missing for a month and finally came back home. The man agrees, saying he'd heard a lot of people were disappearing lately, and congratulates the owner. He asks how his son disappeared, but the vendor tells him to look at the headline, saying he was already thinking if his son didn't come back, he would have no reason to live. The man is surprised, saying, in broad daylight, wondering how something like this could happen. Outside the police station, a reporter calls out to Deputy Director Dong. Introducing themselves as reporters from the Jiangcheng Daily, they ask about the progress on the warehouse case. Dong replies that everyone should remain calm. He understands their concern, as the police are giving this case top priority. They've created a special task force that he will personally supervise, and they will conduct a thorough investigation into all companies and individuals involved. A reporter says he heard this case is linked to the Chen family and asks what the director has to say. He can only say that no matter who is behind this, they will be brought to justice, because they represent justice in this city. Elsewhere in a house, a young man says he understands. He's on the phone apologizing to Uncle Liu and promising they'll take care of everything. He can rest assured, as the Chen family always repays its favors. He hangs up the call shortly after. He starts to look down and says, this is on him. Our warehouse was invaded. The entertainment center shut down. And you were supposed to be a very competent watchdog. He asks if Jinhu knows how much money they lost this time. All of this happened because you let them plant a bug on you, and your little puppy brought people to rob our house. Jinhu begs for another chance. Chen thinks for a moment, but tells him to forget it. Even if it's just a dog, you grow fond of it after raising it for so long. He says he's in a bad mood, so Jinhu should come for a walk with him by the river, and he orders his men to take care of Uncle Ho. Be quick and clean. Also, change the carpet, since he's made a mess on the floor. Later, by the sea, they take a barrel to dump into the sea, throwing the barrel into the deep. It begins to sink immediately, but the man manages to stick a finger out. A subordinate reports that they've succeeded. Chen tells him to go and the driver to head back, but a subordinate reports that something was captured by the warehouse's internal cameras. He's surprised to see the protagonist in the footage, and asks what his name is again, remembering it was Jiang Shan, a pretentious name. The subordinate reports that they discovered a company in his name and that he has contact with the police station since the raid was carried out by them. Chen then bursts into laughter. His subordinate is surprised by this, and the young master says it's interesting. He thought he was just a pawn but ended up getting outplayed. It doesn't matter. He's just a reckless kid, and his road has come to an end. Trying to test his strength against the Chen family, he'll pay the price for that later at his house. Chen then dials a number. He says, it's me. I want the best cleaner. Price doesn't matter. Take out Jiang Shan immediately. But his grandfather, San, says he's already caused enough trouble. The family is very dissatisfied with what he did this time, and he should know the scale of the problem he's caused. The family council has decided that his position in the line of succession will drop 2 levels, and his resources will be cut in half. Chen says that's not fair. San tells him to keep quiet and wait for the dust to settle. If he dares to act rashly again, he'll be kneeling in the ancestral temple, but the call then disconnects. Chen is surprised, saying, "This sucks," and throws his phone on the ground, saying, "Damn old geezers." He then takes a deep breath. He questions who they think he is to be kneeling in the temple, asking if he's just trash from the Chen family, screaming that this is just wonderful. He's useless. All thanks to Jiang Shan. Elsewhere in the city, there's a huge line for signing demolition agreements. An old man asks if the young man is also here to sign and how many apartments he has. Jiang Shan signals with 3 fingers. The man says that'll get him some good compensation. But the protagonist starts to say something, then decides to forget it. He thinks, if I told him I have 3 entire buildings to be demolished, the old man would have a heart attack. The clerk tells him to read the terms and then sign to confirm. The protagonist signs right away, thinking that all the effort these past few days was worth it. He finally feels a little more secure. In the following days, the company officially opened. The training got on track, and he remained busy day after day, and school became his rare refuge. Lin Shi calls out the protagonist's name. She says she's surprised that, while juggling work and school, he still managed to place in the top 10 on the placement exam. She praises him for working so hard. Jiang Shan says he didn't work hard at all, and that if he's being honest, it was all because of his intelligence. Lin Shi calls him ungrateful, saying it was thanks to her tutoring sessions, and kicks him. She remarks that he's strong but still afraid of girls. The other students notice the school beauty is laughing and wonder why. But a young man in the same school uniform interrupts them. He calls out to his classmate Jiang Shan, stating that according to the records, his accumulated absences this semester have reached the limit. After discussing with the student council's disciplinary committee, they intend to issue a warning and a public reprimand. Lin Shi argues that his case is special. Zhou replies that special cases must be requested and registered with the student council in advance, and that no privilege is above the rules. The protagonist then steps forward, asking what will happen. Zhou says that next Monday, after the flag ceremony, he must make a public apology in front of all the students and teachers and promise it won't happen again. The students feel something is wrong, as the student council doesn't have the power to punish someone like that. Jiang Shan asks, "And if I don't?" But Zhou responds that they will suggest a more severe punishment to the school administration, one that could even affect his graduation. The protagonist glares at him, thinking that skipping class is just an excuse. This guy didn't come with good intentions. Lin Shi argues that this is going too far. Zhou laughs, saying he can either accept the disciplinary action on his own, or perhaps they'll have to help him accept it. Jiang Shan replies that he's done a lot of talking, but asks if he has the official punishment document with the dean's office seal. Another student argues that according to the rules, the student council has full authority. Jiang Shan steps closer, saying this is just a council decision, and if you're looking for trouble, you should watch who you mess with. The person behind you should have warned you that there are some people you just can't touch. Zhou asks if he's threatening him. Lin Shi says that's not it. That's not what he meant, and that there are too many people around for them to make a scene. She says she needs to go home, or her father will worry. Jiang Shan walks away with her. Zhou clenches his fist tightly, muttering that this isn't over, and that they'll see how long his arrogance lasts. Later, in the principal's office, Zhou yells for Principal Wang to look at the students these days. Jiang Shan is always skipping class, doesn't respect the school rules, and even disrespected a student council representative. This kind of behavior can't be ignored. Wang sighs and says Jiang Shan's name. He places his coffee on the desk. He says that on this matter, he needs to better understand the situation, since he can't just listen to one side of the story. Zhou is surprised by this and says that all the records are there, and he even confessed. But the principal says that dealing with students requires patience and a proper approach, and that this student's situation is special. Zhou asks what could possibly be so special about him. Wang replies that the dean and the school board have asked them to give him special attention. Zhou is shocked to hear this. Wang asks if he thinks that as principal, he owns the school. He can't get on the bad side of any of them. How is that possible? Zhou asks. That bastard has powerful connections. Wang says that as his uncle, he'll give him some advice. Don't provoke him. Yang Tianli's family was powerful enough, and you know how they ended up. Zhou calls out to his uncle, talking about today's events, but the principal tells him to calm down and that the matter ends here. Zhou thinks, that damn bastard. If I don't teach him a lesson now, he'll only get more arrogant. I can't let this slide. Wang comments that the youth of today don't understand danger. Elsewhere, some women ask young Master Joe to keep drinking. The young man slams his glass down and asks when he's ever been so humiliated. A girl hugs him and tells him to just have fun because he won't remember any of this tomorrow. Joe shoves her away and asks who she thinks she is, showing off like that. And I can see your disgusting face just fine, Jiang Shan! He screams. Chen appears, saying it seems he really hates him. Joe asks who's laughing at him. Chen replies that it doesn't matter who he is, only that they have a common enemy. The boy asks what kind of problem he has with him. The young master replies that it's a long story, and while the past is boring, the consequences are interesting. Since he's shaken you up, maybe you'd like him to taste some pain as well. Joe says he'd like that, but that guy isn't easy to deal with, and asks if he has a plan. Chen replies that of course he does, and tells him they should talk. The next day at school, Deng tells the protagonist to wake up because it's the homeroom teacher's class. The teacher interrupts, asking what all the shouting is about, and says if they want to talk, they can come to the front of the class. He adds that there's a new student today, and tells him to introduce himself. Yu Chen states his name and says he hopes they can all get along. Jiang Shan wakes up instantly, recognizing that voice. Seeing Yu Chen's face, it can't be. It's definitely the same face. He'd recognize it anywhere. He wonders what he's doing here. The teacher says he'll see where he can sit and points to an empty seat. He tells Jiang Shan and Deng Jie to get along with their new classmate. Chen says it's a nice spot. He turns to his new classmate saying he's counting on his help. Elsewhere, Chen bursts into laughter. Two bodyguards ask what happened and if he's alright and what he was doing. Chen tells them to get lost and not to interrupt him while he's doing his homework. Thinking about how badly Jiang Shan screwed him over, he's going to make him wish he were dead. First, he'll pretend to be his friend, become his best friend, and discover all his weaknesses. Then he'll make him suffer constantly without letting him understand why. He can't wait to see him act like a clown. Outside, the teacher announces that the class will have an endurance run and tells them to start warming up, thinking that the intel says he has a strong sense of justice. So, they'll start there. Then, the coach yells, "Start!" Everyone takes off running. Jiang Shan pulls ahead at full speed with Chen Yu right behind him. But then, the boy trips, yelling that he's going to fall and asking the protagonist for help. But he's confused when he just keeps running. Jiang Shan just keeps going anyway. Chen Yu wonders, "Didn't he see me?" "That can't be," I yelled pretty loud. The coach taps him on the shoulder, saying that he fell and the teacher will take him to the nurse's office. But Chen Yu says it's not necessary. The coach says he saw the fall. It was quite exaggerated and he must be badly hurt. But the boy keeps arguing that he doesn't need to go. However, the coach insists on being humane and careful, carrying him away. He tells him not to worry, as he has plenty of experience with heavy lifting, and tells the sports rep to keep an eye on him. The bald guy says he's all for show. He looks healthy, but just fell on flat ground for no reason. Maybe his cerebellum isn't fully developed. Jiang Shan wonders if Chen Yu was always this childish at his age, or if maybe he's just pretending to make him lower his guard. Next, they have to form groups to conduct an experiment. Chen Yu thinks this is a great opportunity, while Yang asks if they can skip the ammonia part because the smell is too strong. Then Chen calls out to his classmate, Jiang Shan, saying he didn't quite understand what the teacher just explained, and asks if he could teach him. But Deng says, no way, and that the new student should know his place. Jiang Shan is already in his group. Chen Yu says he just wanted to ask, but he's told to listen up. He's the faithful sidekick, no one else. And he shouldn't even think about stealing his spot. Chen Yu thinks what a clueless guy. What's the advantage of being a doormat that makes him so arrogant? But he says it's all right and apologizes for the trouble. Deng tells him not to mind it, mocking that this guy even falls on flat ground. If he spilled ammonia, it'd be a disaster. Chen Yu thinks, and that was my strategy. When the number of annoying idiots just keeps growing, he just made it onto my target list. Outside, Lin Shi calls it absurd, saying he's a coward. A cat scared of a cockroach. Jiang Shan thinks that Chen Yu has spent the whole day trying to get close to him, and although he doesn't seem as sinister as before, he can't let his guard down. Then, they hear groans. Lin Shi tells him to listen, saying someone is fighting up ahead, but the protagonist decides to keep walking because he's hungry. The girl comments that this doesn't seem like him. The men were beating up Chen Yu, telling him not to mess with them because he has to pay the protection fee. Chen Yu says he's poor, and they shouldn't hit him because he's very fragile. Lin Shi points out it's a mugging, and asks if he's really not going to do anything. But the protagonist just keeps talking about a sausage on a stick stand up ahead. Chen Yu wonders if he didn't see him, if he was blind. But he orders his subordinate to punch him with all his strength. The goon questions how he could have such audacity. Chen Yu asks if he wants him to cut off his fingers one by one and shove them in his mouth. The guy musters all his strength, aiming a blow at his chin. Chen Yu thinks to himself, look over there. But the area remains quiet, with just a simple noise. The subordinate asks if he's okay, if it's serious. Chen Yu then holds his jaw, seeing that a tooth was knocked out. He says he hit him well, and must continue. Until a certain black-haired student comes to stop them. They shouldn't stop, or he'll knock out all their teeth. They all agree and say they understand. Lin Shi hears the screams and says it can't be, and she can't just stand by and watch a classmate being abused. The others continue the beating, but Lin Shi interrupts, telling those disgusting delinquents to stop. The delinquents yell for her to get out of the way. Lin Shi asks what they mean. He's a student at her school, and she has a duty to protect her classmate. She walks in front of him, saying they'll have to deal with her. The two tell her to get out of the way, saying they don't go easy on pretty girls. Lin Shi says that if she backs down now, they'll just become more abusive later, and she'll never give in to scum like them. The two approach angrily, and Lin Shi continues that they have no shame. The delinquent approaches with a punch, telling her not to blame him for what's about to happen. The girl is terrified, but his fist is caught. Zhang Shan glares at him angrily. Lin Shi celebrates when she sees the protagonist. Chen Yu just cracks a smile. The protagonist tells them to get lost. The two get scared and say they'll let them go. Zhang Shan asks if she's okay and tells her not to be so reckless every time. Chen Yu thanks them, saying that if it weren't for them, he would have been beaten to death. He says he just transferred here and doesn't know anyone. They must have seen he was alone and decided to bully him. Lin Shi asks how they could do that and tells him to find her if they ever do it again. But Zhang Shan steps forward, telling him to look for him. He remembers he's the new student in class and says he'll protect him from now on, and he thinks, that bastard. If he gets close to Lin Shi, I'll kill him. Chen Yu celebrates, saying it's wonderful, and now he doesn't have to be afraid of anyone, grabbing his hand. In the days that followed, Chen Yu spent all his time by his side, and although he didn't do anything, he still needs to be on alert at all times. After all, he is that Chen Yu, who now asks if he wants a drink. Deng gets annoyed hearing this, telling him to stop following them. After so much effort to get close to him, he wants to know what he's really planning to do. Deng walks towards his house. Chen Yu stops him at the gate and asks if that's his house. He says he found out by being a professional snoop, but thanks to his and Zhang Shan's care during this time, no one bothers him anymore, and he came to thank him with a gift. Deng celebrates when he sees the new SN2. He wanted to buy one but didn't have the money. He asks if it's really for him. Chen Yu asks if he's close to Zhang Shan, and Deng confirms. So the boy says he always sees him busy and wants to know what he does. Deng replies that he studies, and when he has nothing else to do, he goes for a run or works out, or he takes care of that company of his. The boy asks why he wants to know about him. Chen Yu replies it was just curiosity, and he wants to know more about his company because he wants to make money. Elsewhere, Zhang Shan asks what that is, wondering if Deng Ji got rich. He can't believe he bought the new generation console. He asks if he stole money from his father again, and if the beating last time wasn't enough. Deng says it was nothing like that, and he can't take 5 more of those. And this one was free. He didn't spend a single cent. He then imitates Chen Yu, saying he wants to know what kind of investments he makes. He told him everything he knows about Zhang Shan and will tell him more later. Anyway, he wants to squeeze information out of him and said he wants to make money too. But he tells him to relax because he won't tell him any important information. Zhang Shan asks if he thought he could be bribed so easily, saying he underestimated him. Deng asks who he thinks he is, calling himself the king of taking advantage. But speaking of which, he did set up a meeting with him. He said he'd meet him by the river for some important information. Jiang Shan asks what time he set, because when he left home it was already 11, but Deng Ji says he never even planned to go at 9. He never liked the guy anyway and just left him hanging. He comments that the temperature dropped a lot and hopes he doesn't catch a cold. Outside in the park, Chen Yu sneezes, asking why that kid hasn't arrived yet. A security guard calls out to his young master, saying it's getting cold and he should put on a coat. Chen Yu tells him to get lost, that he's a bodyguard. If he keeps fussing, he'll send him away with Chen Jinhu. The guard says his health is the most important thing and it's already very late. That kid probably isn't coming anymore. Chen Yu asks if he doesn't understand human nature. That guy is just a common, brainless kid. He gets more excited by a video than by his own father. People like that bite the hook immediately if you give them a small gift. They're the first to betray their friends. He's my way in, but he keeps sneezing. The next day at school, Chen Yu shouts Deng Jie's name. He says he waited for him for a long time yesterday, and wants to know why he didn't show up. He said they were going to meet by the river. Deng replies that he doesn't remember that, and they're not close enough to set up a meeting. Chen Yu gets angry, and Deng asks if he's going to hit him in broad daylight. Zhang Shan coughs next to them while agreeing to something on a call. Chen Yu thinks that's right. He can't expose himself now. He grinds his teeth and says he's got guts, but he should remember that those without skill aren't brave, they're just reckless. Deng backs away, asking what that was all about, saying he seems crazy. Chen Yu thinks that was Zhang Shan taking a call at school so casually. It could be official business. The protagonist says everything was fine, and that he'll prepare the details before the police department arrives next week. Chen Yu thinks it's clear now. He's close to the girl from the Lin family, so he rode their influence. No wonder he managed to gather so many experts to attack his warehouse. He analyzes the situation for a moment, but he sneezes because of yesterday. Jiang Shan asks who's there and turns around, but he only sees Chen Yu running away, and he thinks he can sleep soundly relying on the Lin family. I'll make him burn in his own fire. Deng asks why he ran off so clumsily, looking like he's running from debt, but Jiang says he does owe a huge debt. The bald guy is surprised and asks what he means. The protagonist thinks that he was sinister and cunning in his past life, but right now he's just an inexperienced rookie. Taking him down will be easy, but he's not satisfied with just that.
Saying he owes him his life, and he will make him and his entire family pay for it together. At home, Chen yells for them to investigate until there's nothing left to find. He wants to know what properties are in Jiang Shan's name, and all contact records he has with the military and with Lin Zhenbang. He wants to know their cash flow, team composition, everything. The guard says that after what happened at the warehouse, the scrutiny is too intense, and Director Dong is watching everything.
He could expose them at any moment. We've already spent a fortune getting you the new Yu Chen identity and transferring you to the school. Chen Yu tells them to shut up and not talk about money, as it's not an issue. He calls them a bunch of useless fools who can't do anything right without money. It was just a matter of a little cash, and they should stop whining. He pulls a safe from under the rug and moves it. It's filled with stacks of cash and gold bars. He says he still has this, his private safe with enough for them to try one more time. The guard says it's not about the money, it's the risk. He was already on the edge of the abyss, and if he doesn't destroy Jiang Shan, he'll never get back on his feet. Chen shouts they must use every means possible. He wants to know the depth of Jiang Shan's relationship with the military, and not to miss a single trace. The guard agrees with him. Chen then sighs, thinking that Jiang Shan must be feeling pretty smug right now. He thinks he has become a stray dog, and that Jiang Shan would never imagine that a hunt against him is just beginning. The protagonist's company buildings are quiet. Someone then parks a car, taking pictures from inside. Jiang Shan says he took the bait. Chen Yu is now like a gambler who's lost everything. He's seeing red and will use his last chip to recover his losses. Bai Peng replies that if the facts weren't right in front of him, it would be hard to believe Chen Yu is hiding in his school, and he asks why they don't just ask Principal Dong to arrest him. After all, he's a fugitive now. Jiang Shan says he's thinking too simply. The Chen family has deep roots. Even after that warehouse incident, nothing happened to him. He calmly returned with a new identity. He asks if he knows what that means. It means that eliminating only Chen Yu is useless. The family behind him, the intricate network of contacts he has in Jiangcheng, they're the ones who set him up as Yu Chen. If you strike a snake and don't kill it, you'll end up suffering its counterattack. That's why they can't be hasty. To eliminate him, they need to clip all his claws, tear off each of his legs until he's completely isolated, making the forces behind him feel he has no value. Jiang Shan tells him to look at this. Bai Peng asks if it's a map of the suburbs. The protagonist says he's going to set a perfect stage for him with a fake military inspection plan. If Chen Yu wants to finish him, he first needs to nullify the military influence he got from the Lin family. He won't be able to resist that temptation. Bai Peng says the plan is good, but a single phone call or a few loose words probably won't be enough. Jiang Shan replies that to lure him in, they need to provoke him further by creating more smoke and mirrors. Naturally, he has his methods. The strongest bait usually comes from someone he thinks is under his control. Bai Peng asks if he's talking about Deng Ji. The protagonist explains that Chen Yu tried to bribe him, believing he was a weak point that could be exploited. He'll believe it's confidential information leaked from the inside. Bai Peng says it's dangerous because Deng Ji is just a student. If Chen Yu finds out, he might retaliate. Jiang Shan says it's precisely because he's a student that Chen Yu will let his guard down. Besides, he won't let Deng Ji get involved in any dangerous activities, and he should rest assured, as he is very smart. The next day, Deng calls his classmate. Yu Chen says he doesn't want to see him and tells him to get lost. Deng asks if he's sure because he has fresh information about the protagonist. Yu Chen replies that he tricked him badly last time, and he's supposed to believe him again? He says he doesn't need his money and that he gave the video game to the dogs. Deng gets closer, talking about a military district and a secret inspection. He asks if he's interested. Yu Chen is surprised by this. He demands to know what exactly he knows, threatening to beat him if he doesn't speak up now. Deng asks what's with the attitude. Yu Chen then lets him go. The bald guy makes it clear the information isn't free, and he already said he has no problem with money, so he should show a little proof of friendship. Yu Chen asks if he didn't already buy him the video game and what more he wants. Deng says that was just the entry fee, and if he's going to be such a cheapskate, he'll just leave, and he starts to walk away. Yu Chen thinks that a tiger was being humiliated by a stray dog, and that in the old days he would have crushed him with a single finger. Deng turns around, saying he thought he was rich, but in the end, it's all just talk. But Yu Chen tells him to wait. The bald guy is happy. The young master asks what kind of proof of friendship he wants. Dung replies it's nothing much, just the new Fruit 6 phone. He's always wanted one, but never had the money. Yu Chen replies that it's a very simple thing. The two start the transaction. Dung tells him to look carefully and not transfer the wrong amount. He then sends him 12,000 yen. Yu Chen asks if he's satisfied now. Dung thinks the mood is just right and that Shanzi said he was a stingy kid. Then he coughs. He says Zhang Shan looked for him today. He told him the company has some business in a few days, so he'll miss class, and asked him to make up an excuse. He asked what it was, and he said he was going to the western suburbs. The military district people are going to inspect his company to build a logistics center. Yu Chen thinks about the western suburbs and all the other words. They match the information from the call. He says that such an important matter being told so casually could be a trap. Dung questions his suspicion, saying he's Jiang Shan's best friend. If he didn't tell him, who would he tell? Yu Chen says he's very lucky to have such a good friend, and the bald guy replies that they're two peas in a pod. The young master starts asking several questions. Dung asks if he's stupid. Asking for such details would be too obvious, and Jiang Shan is no fool. Apparently he's not all that, and yet he still wants to mess with Jiang Shan. He'd be better off giving up so he doesn't lose what little he has left. That would be quite a loss. He was just thinking of his own good, but Chen says he doesn't need that. If there's more news, he should report it immediately. Dung says he wouldn't dare, and he can rest easy because their relationship is closer now. Yu Chen wonders if he's reliable and doubts he'd dare to pull another trick. The information is confirmed. He sends everything about it on his phone. He thinks that as soon as Jiang Shan loses the military's protection, he'll be a sitting duck. Bai Peng thinks the plan worked. Chen Yu is probably messaging his subordinates, and Deng Jie isn't in any danger. Jiang Shan congratulates him on a job well done. For now, they do nothing. They should let him investigate, since the more he prepares, the more exposed he'll become. Bai Peng says he got a call and has to hang up. He answers it surprised. He gets scared and asks when it happened, because he was on his way right now. In a hospital, he crouches down, looking forward in despair. He thinks of his brother, calling Xiaofei's name, because he needs to hold on, with signed documents beside him. A doctor asks if the family is present. Bai Peng asks about his brother, but the doctor replies that the situation is not optimistic at all and tells him to look. His brother's heart condition has developed a rare complication. The white part is the lesion. Bai Peng asks what that means. They said they could still wait. Doctor Zhang says that in medicine, there are always unforeseen events. These cases are rare, but they happen. The brother asks what will happen to him if they don't treat it immediately. The doctor replies that he might not make it past 3 months. Bai Peng is devastated upon hearing this. Dr. Zhang says conventional surgery is too risky, with a success rate below 30%. But there's a foreign method called cardio renew with an 80% success rate. Bai Peng asks how much it costs. Dr. Zhang replies that it's 1,200,000. It's a 6-week treatment cycle, and 3 cycles are needed plus the surgery. Bai Peng repeats the amount. Dr. Zhang looks down, startled. He says that if he can't afford the costs, he knows some contacts. He hands him a paper and explains they provide generic drugs with 70% to 80% of the original's effect, and the price is 1/10 of the cost. But he needs to be aware that this is not regulated, and there are risks. However, someone grabs his hand. Jiang Shan said to use the original medication. He doesn't just want the best medicine, but the best room and the best available treatment plan. They must do whatever it takes to cure him. Money wasn't an issue. Zhang replies that this is no joke. They're talking about over 1 million. Jiang Shan then pulls out his phone, writing a check for 5 million yuan to Bai Peng. He says it's an advance, and if it's not enough, he'll cover the rest. Zhang is surprised, and the protagonist points out it has the official seal. Bai Peng says he can't believe it, that the money is his, and the company just had a meeting. Jiang Shan tells him to calm down. He tells him to think about what's most important right now. They can earn money again, but a lost life can't be brought back. He asks them to please arrange the transfer to the VIP room immediately, and start the treatment. He'll take care of it right away. Bai Peng thinks about Jiang Shan. He always thought he was unbreakable, but faced with reality, he realized how small he is. He discovered there are many things they can't overcome, no matter how hard they try. And that money can bring down a strong man isn't just a popular saying. If he hadn't met him, he wonders what would have become of him now. Bai Peng wonders if he has any idea. If they had met a little later, maybe he would have already given up on himself. Maybe he would have become one of Chen Yu's lackeys. Jiang Shan replies that there are no ifs. Now they are brothers and comrades in arms. He watches his back, and
and he'll take care of his family. As night fell that day, a car parks in a desolate location. Chen Yu then walks out, commenting on what a filthy place it was. He calls out Zhang Shan's name, wondering if this is the stage where he plans to achieve his grand dreams. He looks ahead with his subordinates, seeing the entire construction site before them. Chen Yu remarks that it's a military inspection site, and Zhang Shan sure knows who to cozy up to. Another subordinate says his men found out that in 4 days, there will be an important reception, and people from the military district will come to see the site. Chen Yu asks about the exact time and security. The man says it's at 2 in the afternoon, and for now, the site only has regular security guards. But on the day of the inspection, the Dragon Shield personnel will cordon off and secure the area in advance. Chen Yu says that's very good. He thinks he's so clever, cozying up to the military. I'm going to make him face the biggest embarrassment of his life right in front of the army. If this is his stage, then he will be the clown. Later on, he jots down some notes in his car. The man asks what he's planning. Chen Yu tells him to look there. On the day of the inspection, I want something to happen there. No one needs to die, but it has to be big and shameful enough. So, send people to protest with banners and cause a ruckus. Then they should use the chaos to set a fire and burn all the materials. I want the military to see that Jiang Shan's security can't even protect his own construction site. The subordinate asks if that would draw too much attention. Chen Yu tells him not to play innocent, as they all have blood on their hands. He tells him to contact all the reliable brothers in Jiangzhou, because after they finish this job, he points upwards, saying he'll give 100,000 to each of them, and make sure they get out of town until the dust settles. The man asks if he's serious. He celebrates, accepting the offer and thanking the young master. Chen Yu thinks to himself that tomorrow, he wants to see despair written all over his face. The next morning, at the building, a military vehicle arrives on site. The instructor tells them to stand up straight and not to embarrass themselves in front of Master Shan. A young man introduces Sergeant Wang to the security company, explaining that they are all veterans here. Zhao Gong salutes and says he is there, following orders. Wang says that's great spirit, and Chang Shan introduces the two, counting on him to guide the visit. Zhao Gang leads the officers through the site, as they are going to visit the main training ground, until someone screams for justice, yelling to punish these mobsters, claiming the criminal force Dragon Shield is beating up the people. They must punish Zhang Shan and get rid of these thugs. He says they broke his leg, and asks where the justice is, while another woman shouts that her son ended up in the hospital because of them. Wang asks what's going on, and Chang Shan says he doesn't know either. Zhao Gang says the same. He's sure it's slander, as his company has never done anything like that. Chang Shan says he believes them. The man replies that the leader must bring them justice, calling him a mobster, and his security company a gang of henchmen. They must wait a bit. Since they are old and sick, they can't fight back. If they do, the slander will become truth. Zhao Gang wonders what is happening here. Later, at their school, Chen Yu sits in the cafeteria, laughing. He says they are acting well, that it almost looks real, and he can't wait to see how he'll get out of this one, until he sees Deng calling the protagonist. Chen Yu wonders how he can be at school. This is his important day. How can he just be here, eating? Doesn't he care about the military inspection at all? But Zhang Shan just looks at his phone and says it's trash. Deng asks what he's talking about. The protagonist explains that in yesterday's fight, the blue side missed a punch and is about to get beaten. Chen Yu wonders how he can be so relaxed, until the sound from his phone gets strange. He wonders what's happening and why, seeing the police arriving on his phone. An officer orders everyone to stay still and get down with their hands on their heads. One man says he's the victim and they can't touch him. They should be arresting the ones who beat him. But Dong recognizes him as Zhang San, who got out of jail a few days ago, and asks how he broke his leg. He says, "Let me guess, it's the old accident scam." He orders his men to control all the troublemakers and not let anyone escape, and so all the scammers are apprehended. Zhao sighs, and Changshan wonders how the police arrive so quickly. He then looks up, because there's someone on top of the building. A subordinate informs Director Dong that they recorded everything, from yesterday's meeting to the equipment prep, and are now removing the gear. Changshan realizes this was his plan all along and is surprised. Chen Yu's phone then turns off. He wonders how the police showed up. Something is wrong. He then turns towards the protagonist, wondering if that bastard knew about his plan and set a trap. It doesn't make sense. He doesn't expose himself. It makes no sense at all. That guy is his worst nightmare. A girl then calls out to him, asking if he's the new student and if he's not feeling well. She says he looks pale and asks if he wants her to take him to the nurse's office. She then looks to the side and asks if everything is okay. Chen Yu laughs right after, saying it's nothing. He just drank some cold milk that upset his stomach. He says he'll go to the nurse's office by himself. He leaves right after. Deng says he looks really angry. Jiang Shan replies that a rabid dog always barks before it dies,
but no amount of barking can change its fate. He sends a message to Director Dong, informing him that the capture was successful. In the bathroom, Chen Yu calls him a bastard. He thinks, he doesn't know my identity, so how did he set this ambush? His performance was perfect. There was no reason to suspect him. There's only one possibility, that bastard Deng Jie. He spent a fortune to bribe him, but ended up buying an infiltrator to be backstabbed by a doormat. How did he know I was going to attack Jiang Shan? Maybe I've been deceived all along, and Jiang Shan is just a puppet. Deng Jie is the one behind everything this whole time. He's a despicable and terrifying guy. All this time, I only focused on Jiang Shan and let the bigger fish get away. Chen Yu then notices something. A voice tells whoever is in there to open the door. Chen Yu starts to wonder who it is. Is it the police? This must be a curse. Getting caught like this would be too humiliating. But the janitor asks if the person inside heard him. He's finished cleaning and is about to change shifts. Chen Yu thinks it's just the cleaning staff. He's really seeing danger everywhere. He opens the door, thinking everything is fine. The janitor tells them to stop causing trouble for others. Chen Yu apologizes, saying his stomach was already feeling upset. He adds that he doesn't need to go to the nurse's office, but thanks him for his concern. In the hallway, some girls comment that Yu Chen always seems happy, and he was kind as well as handsome, the perfect male lead from a K-drama. He was real-life perfection. Chen Yu thinks about perfection, and the reason he tries so hard to maintain this smiling, idiotic persona. He wonders why Deng Ji thinks he has to do this. Back at the main building, a police officer reports that Director Dong has finished the preliminary background check. There were 23 people, 5 with criminal records, and 3 wanted fugitives. He lists their names and crimes. Dong thinks that Jiang Shan gave him quite a gift. Jiang Shan notices his satisfied expression and asks if the harvest was good. Dong says, counselor, he is just joking with him, that he was only doing his job. But it was thanks to the vigilance of the Dragon Shield members. Zhao thanks him right after. He says that protecting the peace is their duty, and Dong thinks this guy is already trying to take advantage. Wang comments that this model could be expanded. The civil-military integration shouldn't just be for economic construction, but for social security as well. Then, they head to the new training base. Dong looks at his phone. He sees the message from the protagonist. Jiang Shan's phone vibrates. He replies with a smile on his face, saying he doesn't want anyone to mess with Chen Yu for now. Then, he nods his head. He thinks about how Chen Yu didn't come to class and wonders what he's up to. He feels that something isn't right. Looking at his phone, he checks some cameras. He thinks everything is fine. His house and his mother's shop are secure, and Lin Shi's house is also protected. But knowing Chen Yu's personality, he wouldn't accept a defeat like this without reacting. He wonders what he must be planning. Later at school, Jiang Shan wakes Deng Ji up, telling him class is over. Deng asks what's going on, saying he was up all night gaming and is still sleepy. Jiang Shan tells him to go straight home after school today and not to hang around on the streets, because Chen Yu didn't come to class this afternoon and probably won't be able to stay still any longer. At his house, his mother says the meat today is great, and that her son has been very tired, so he should drink the soup. She adds that she'll buy some fruit later. She lists several fruits, and the protagonist just agrees. He was analyzing the cameras from there. Then he thinks that something is wrong. It's too quiet, and Chen Yu wouldn't just accept defeat. His mother calls out to him. Jiang Shan asks what's wrong. His mother asks if his studies are difficult or if something happened at the company, but the protagonist denies it. She tells him to eat properly and stop playing on his phone because it will ruin his eyes. The protagonist is surprised. He sees a call from Deng Ji and thinks something must have happened. He answers and asks what's wrong. Deng Ji tells him his mother has been kidnapped. Jiang Shan tells him to explain it clearly. The bald guy says he just got home and the door was open. Everything was broken and there was a note on the table. Jiang Shan asks what the note said. Deng Ji reads that if he wants to save his mother, he must go to the old brickyard in the western suburbs. He shouldn't call the police or bring anyone, or else he should wait for a corpse. The protagonist thinks that it's Chen Jinhu's property, which was abandoned after it closed. And Chen Yu really didn't disappoint him. He then asks where he is now, telling him to take a taxi to his house, and that he'll wait for him at the corner playground, and they'll talk when they meet. Deng Ji says he's afraid of losing his mother, and he misses her so much. Jiang Shan tells him to leave it to him, promising he'll bring her back safely. He hangs up the phone and thinks that if Chen Yu dares to do anything stupid, he swears he'll make him suffer 100 times more than death. His mother coughs in front of him, asking if he's going somewhere. Jiang Shan stops and calls out to his mother. He tells her he's going to meet Deng Jie to review school material, and his mother asks if he thinks she'll believe that, but she lets it go. He's grown up and has his own ideas, so he should do what he wants. As long as he's careful, his mother will be worried about him. Jiang Shan tells her not to worry and to save dinner for him. He'll eat when he gets gets back. Later in that city, he meets Dungji in the park. The bald guy says he took too long and calls out for his mom. Jiangshan tells him to calm down, that she'll be fine, and asks to see the note first. Dungji hands it over. The protagonist thinks that it's a printed font and the paper is very clean. Dungji grabs his clothes, asking why this is happening all of a sudden since they haven't messed with anyone. Jiangshan says it's his own fault, not his friends. Yuchen is Chen Yu, the youngest son of the Chen family. He already knew he was coming after him, but to vent his anger, he deliberately toyed with him, watching him fail completely. If he had finished him off from the start, his mother wouldn't be in danger. It's all his fault. Deng Jie asks what the hell he's saying. The Jiangshan he knows isn't an indecisive coward. He takes responsibility for his actions. If he really feels guilty, he needs to fix this and bring Chen Yu to justice. If anything happens to his mother, he'll never forgive him. Jiangshan calls his name, and Deng Ji says he's the most incredible person he knows, his best friend. And if even he can't help, then he'll lose everything. Jiangshan says he thinks so too. That's why facing fire or water is his undeniable duty. He tells him to remember that no matter what he hears, he must not be impulsive. Heading towards the car, he starts driving. He calls brother Peng, who tells him he can now take remote command since Xiaofei has stabilized. Jiangshan orders him to initiate Emergency Plan A and send a team to surround the old brickyard in the western suburbs, but not to alert them. Then he switches the call to Director Dong. The director says he's already aware of the situation, and the teams are in position, waiting 700 meters from the brickyard. Jiangshan thanks him but asks them not to get any closer yet, as Chen Yu might have ways to monitor the perimeter. Dong says they'll keep their distance and wait for the signal, but asks if he's sure he wants to go in alone. Jiangshan says it's the only way to save her, because Chen Yu's target is him. Dong replies that it's fine, but if there's any danger, he must signal immediately. Jiangshan confirms, and Dong says he always has a plan, so he trusts him. The protagonist hangs up, thinking about it. He had planned to toy with Chen Yu. Making a fool of him and watching him suffer was satisfying. After all, right now he's just an inexperienced kid, and underestimating him was inevitable. He was reborn, and has made no progress at all. And if anything happens to Auntie Deng, he wonders how he'll face Deng Ji for the rest of his life, and how he'll face himself. He can't let that happen, ever. Jiangshan needs to calm down first. Team 2 reports they haven't detected any cameras on the brickyard's perimeter, but they've found 3 suspicious heat sources that could be ambushes. Jiangshan asks for their positions. They report one on the roof of the abandoned office to the east, one behind the material line to the west, and one in the second-floor window. Jiangshan orders the team to keep watching without exposing themselves, and for Team 3 to stand by for his command to breach. He then speeds up his car, driving through a tunnel. After passing through it, he arrives at the warehouse. Jiangshan gets out of the car. Looking up, he sees a light in the window, and thinks he's really watching. Chen Yu asks, "See that? He really came alone." The subordinate asks if it could be an ambush. Chen Yu says of course he has allies, but the hostage is in their hands. Deng Jie's mother cries in the chair. Chen Yu says her son's friend came to save her. He laughs and says he wants to see how he'll choose to get out of this one. He's the one who defines the rules of the game. Just like the script for everything, he's the one writing it, with a C4 under the table. Jiangshan enters the building and notifies Peng. Bai just replies that he understands, and if they don't hear from him in 3 minutes, they will begin the breach immediately. The protagonist then looks to the side, thinking it's too dark. Chen Yu asks if it isn't a bit too dim and suggests a little light. After all, a stage needs beautiful lighting. Jiangshan tells him to stop stalling and asks where the people are. Chen Yu questions the rush, saying he needs to set the stage first. He turns on the lights with a clap of his hands. He says he also needs the actors on stage. Jiangshan recognizes Aunt Deng. Chen Yu says that if he wants to save lives, he must follow his script and step into that circle so they can talk. Jiangshan analyzes the circle on the floor. He then walks towards it and asks if this is good enough, telling him to let her go, because he'll play by his rules. But Chen Yu tells him not to rush, as no actor comes on stage just to end the show immediately. He then grabs a remote control and tells him to calm down, since the opening credits haven't finished yet. A door then opens. Chen Yu says for the second actor to enter. Jiangshan is then surprised. He recognizes a figure in a chair, but then he realizes he doesn't actually know him. Chen Yu says he sees the doubt on his face, explaining that this is the school janitor. How should he put it? He just casually invited him to play a little. Then he asks his colleague, Jiangshan, who he will choose between the two people, his best friend's mother, or an innocent civilian who was just around. As soon as he makes his choice, the other will lose their life. He can't stall. He only has 10 seconds. Jiangshan says that's more than enough time. Chen Yu then questions this. The protagonist steps out of the circle, saying he has a better choice. He chooses both of them, and on top of that, he's sending him to jail. Chen Yu calls him a damn bastard for his insolence. He then orders his man to move. The subordinate points the gun at him. The bullet closes in on the protagonist. He narrowly dodges it, and the bullet hits the wall. That subordinate aims his gun again. Jiang Shan notices something in his path, a pile full of rubble, so he grabs a brick, throwing it at him, and hitting the man in the head. Jiang Shan keeps running, and thinks that the second one is in the office. He sees the silhouette through the window. The protagonist then crouches and picks up a brick, calling him an animal and yelling, "Take this," throwing a brick at him too, and he thinks that the sound of the gun and the bullets feels strange, which must mean he notices something on his back, because there's another one up there. The subordinate then aims his weapon. Jiang Shan just runs towards him. The man yells that if he gets any closer, he'll shoot. But the protagonist replies that this is a pain, holding a toy gun and trying to show off for someone. He doesn't have time to play house with them. He then yanks the gun away from him and lands a kick that sends him flying. The man passes out as he hits the wall. Chen Yu calls them all useless, because they can't even handle one student, and that he'll have to use that, then ordering something to come out, because he really didn't imagine he would take down all 3 ambushes. But he shouldn't think he's getting past him. As a bodyguard, he won't allow anyone to pose a threat to the young master, appearing with a dog. That dog keeps barking rapidly. Jiang Shan says they really are 2 good dogs. The security guard asks what he said, so the protagonist picks up a stick and says he was praising their loyalty, but it's a shame. Unfortunately, they followed a jerk for a master. The bodyguard releases the dog, telling it to get him. The animal approaches, wanting to bite him. Jiang Shan says that animals can't tell right from wrong, and hits it, telling it to get out of there immediately. The wolf whimpers a little on the ground. That bodyguard says that the dog he trained so carefully was defeated so easily, seeing only the reflection in his glasses. As the protagonist was heading his way, he then leaps towards him and lands a punch to his face, knocking him to the ground. Jiang Shan thinks, now only Chen Yu is left, but he's surprised and wonders what he's going to do. Chen Yu walks towards oil drums with a bomb. He recognizes it right away, because this lunatic intends to die along with him. Jiang Shan takes off his backpack and tells him not to even think about it, taking a harpoon gun from inside. He then prepares to fire it, launching it towards the building, and starts using it to move. Chen Yu says they'll die together, and that it won't be a loss for him, but the protagonist knocks him out and tells him to take a break. Chen Yu asks him to wait, but the protagonist says he's waited a long time for this day. He approaches with his fist raised as Chen Yu keeps begging him to wait, because it makes no sense to take his life now, since in the Chen family, he's just a gopher. He was kicked out, and the real trouble is yet to come. Jiang Shan tells him to explain himself. Chen Yu says it was his brother, Chen Xuan, who is the true future leader of the Chen family. The protagonist repeats his name in his head, thinking that he was the subordinate who betrayed him. Come to think of it, the day before the mission, he had offered him something. He wants to know what he put in that glass of water and what he did. Chen Yu laughs, saying he'll regret it. His brother will never forgive him and will take everything from him, everything he holds dear, his parents, his friends, including that girl, Lin Shi. Jiang Shan clenches his fist in anger at his laughter, but then he releases his grip and informs Director Dong that he's finished there and can bring his men in. The hostage is safe, and the suspect is also secure, as dawn breaks. In the director's office, he thanks him for his efforts and informs him that the interrogation is underway, but there's something he needs to show him first, which was found on Chen Yu. Jiang Shan then looks at the phone. He's surprised by what he sees. Chen Xuan sent a message saying it was fine that the mission failed, and that this Jiang Shan was interesting. In a building in another city, Chen Xuan repeats Jiang Shan's name, saying he really is an interesting person. It makes him unable to resist wanting to be near him. He takes the phone out of his pocket and says it's him and he needs 2 things. He wants an accidental meeting with Lin Zhengbang's daughter, and it has to look natural, and he wants one of the special recruitment spots at Jing University for next year. The person on the phone just agrees, saying his younger brother was a disappointment and that you have to know who the master is before you beat the dog. Some principles are very simple, but some people just don't get it. The next day, in the city, a police officer calls out to the protagonist, saying it's careless to walk while looking at his phone. He then calls out Jiang Shan's name, saying he heard Chen Yu is getting at least 15 years this time, and that he can finally take a break. But the protagonist just sighs in response. The officer is confused, wondering what's wrong, why he didn't hear him, and if he's worried about the Chen Xuan matter. Jiang Shan looks at his phone. Lin Shi says she had something to tell him, but the protagonist says they can talk tomorrow at school. He then repeats her name. At her house, Lin Shi calls out to her parents, wanting to know why she has to leave, as she doesn't want to interrupt her schooling and had already adapted to life in Jiangzhou. And she had made friends too. Zhengbang tells her to listen, as the capital is where her Lin family's foundation is, and once she's there, she'll be better protected. The Chen family in Jiangzhou has grown more powerful this time, and their family is worried about a desperate dog jumping the wall. Lin Shi squeezes his hand tightly, saying she wants to say goodbye to everyone as she looks at her phone. At the police station, the officer says he wants to ask one more time who was helping with the organ trafficking and what means of transport they used. He also wants to know where their other nests are in Jiangzhou. Chen Yu just laughs in response, saying he's already said it many times. He has no comment. The officer says a dead pig isn't afraid of boiling water, and he should stop with the silly tricks. Since with the crimes he's committed, he's looking at life in prison, so he'd better cooperate. Chen Yu replies that he wants to go to the bathroom, and the officer says they'll let him go when he gives a clear confession. He gets irritated, but the officer next to him tells him to calm down. He was the young master of a great family, and the circumstances surrounding him were very complex. The police officer then coughs and says he won't make things difficult for him. Xiaozhang should go and watch him closely. The officer tells him not to worry and leads him to the bathroom. Telling him to be quick, Chen Yu just agrees. He enters the bathroom shortly after. The janitor calls out to the third young master. He says a message came from the family and they can help him with one wish. Since his young master is sensible, he should hurry up and consider it. Chen Yu says he has decided. He will admit his guilt but refuses to accept the consequences. You must listen carefully to my wish. A fate worse than death for Jiang Shan. The man looks at him and says he understands and hopes he gets it. In that case, he asks him to accept the package. He says he'll leave first and wishes the third young master a safe journey. The next day at school, Deng asks what he's looking at, wondering if it's a love letter, but Jiang tells him not to talk nonsense. The bald guy recognizes it's an invitation to Lin Shi's birthday and says it's his chance since he hasn't bought her a gift yet. He tells him that girls love expensive things like limited edition perfumes, custom jewelry, and something romantic. Jiang Shan says he has an idea about that. Deng tells him to spill it and offers some tactical advice. Jiang Shan says he'll know when the time comes, and if Deng doesn't get to work, he'll speak up quickly. Deng shouts that he's a bad influence and is still keeping him in suspense. The protagonist thinks about Lin Shi. Ever since she sent him that message, he's had a bad premonition. This might just be an illusion. But on the day of her birthday, the bald guy says there are a lot of people and asks if he can really go. Jiang Shan says it was his invitation and Deng Ji was with him, so the butler just accepts it, welcoming them to the banquet and guiding them inside. The two invitations were for the highest level, allowing them to rest in the VIP area. Deng is amazed by the desserts, saying there's so much delicious food and he's never eaten anything like it. The protagonist tells him to take it easy or he'll get diarrhea again. Someone approaches and says, "You must be Jiang Shan." The protagonist turns around immediately. The man says he's a real man with good looks and a good reputation. Deng wonders who this guy is and why he seems so eccentric and sarcastic. Lin Jun introduces himself, saying he was away for a year and just recently returned, but he's heard nothing but good things about him. He extends his hand, saying it's a pleasure to meet him. Jiang Shan says it's a pleasure to meet him too, and that those were minor things not worth mentioning. Lin Jun asks if taking down the Yang family and Chen Yu were minor things, calling him too modest. He adds that he loves making friends with capable people, but words are just words. He asks if he'd like a little test to see with his own eyes if they should be friends. The bald guy is surprised and remarks on the strange atmosphere. Lin Jun says it's time to celebrate Shi's birthday and that a small archery booth has been set up in the garden, asking if he's interested. Deng says it's her birthday, not some martial arts tournament for marriage. Lin Jun asks if he'd like to play or if he thinks this kind of civilized game is not to his taste. Jiang Shan laughs a little and asks how he wants to compete, saying that as a guest, he'll follow the rules. Outside the house, they set up a target along a red carpet. A blindfolded Lin Sun explains they'll listen for a command and shoot from 3 meters away. They'll each have 3 arrows, comparing scores by the rings. A subordinate hands him a bow and an arrow. He asks if the rules are clear. Upon hearing his command, they must shoot at the target. Jiang Shan takes his bow. In the middle of the crowd, Lin Shi notices it's Jiang Shan and her cousin. She asks what they're doing and tells her cousin to stop messing around, since her eldest uncle will be angry if he finds out. Lin Sun tells her to watch. Since they both came for her birthday, he wants to make it fun. Whoever wins gets to have their present opened by her first. Jiang Shan agrees immediately. Lin Shi thinks to herself that he's honestly just trying to attract attention again. The young man announces he'll start now and will go first. He readies his bow and shoots towards the target, hitting the 9th ring with the first arrow, and gets the second arrow ready, shooting for the 10th ring. Lin Shi wonders if everything will really be okay. The young master says, only 1 arrow left. He asks if Jiang is feeling the pressure, telling him not to worry because he won't go easy on him. After all, the true way is to respect your opponent. Lin Shun readies his arrow, shooting it right after. Lin Shi wonders if Jiang Shan is okay, but then someone pushes her. The girl starts to fall. She looks up, with the arrow coming right at her. She cries for help and Jiang Shan recognizes her. He thinks that it's the same trajectory as the arrow, and he has no choice but to move. He shoots his 3 arrows in quick succession. They fly rapidly through the crowd, but they stop the other arrow from hitting Lin Shi. The girl is surprised to find she's okay. A man asks if she's all right, and the girl confirms. Lin Shun takes off his blindfold and asks why she was sitting there. The protagonist says he almost shot her just now. The young man asks where that arrow is, but a man tells him to look over there, wondering how it could be, as all of Jiang's arrows hit the bullseye. Lin Shun says it's wonderful, and that it might be a lost archery combat art. This boy has many skills, and he wants to know how Lin Shi ended up in the line of fire. He then looks to the side. There was a man sneaking away. Everyone shouts to capture him, saying he was the one who pushed her and not to let him get away, grabbing him by the collar, and the man keeps asking to be let go. Jiang Shan says he'd like to hear it, who he's working for. He should confess honestly before he calls the police, adding that he probably doesn't want a criminal record. The man just glares at him. He then sighs arrogantly. Then he chews on something in his mouth. Jiang Shan says, "This guy hid poison in his mouth." Then the man starts to lose consciousness. The protagonist asks if he heard what he said, but the man says, "Chen Yu sends his regards." The protagonist thinks about this, and that he should be in the detention center right now, so he shouldn't be a problem. At the city detention center, Chen Yu sits on his bed, looking at a razor blade, and then he laughs, saying that, as expected of his brother, he was very frugal. Even at a time like this, he didn't spare some potassium chloride. He laughs again. In his past, he runs through a green field, getting close to a butterfly, and says he caught it. But the butterfly flies away, and Chen Yu says it's annoying because he missed again. He ran all afternoon and didn't catch a single butterfly. Maybe he's not good at this, or maybe he's not good at anything. The bodyguard approaches, asking how the young master can say such a thing. He should believe in himself more, but Chen Yu says everyone calls him trash, and that his inheritance rights have nothing to do with him. The bodyguard says that whether it's butterflies or an inheritance, he can live as he pleases. Risking his life won't get him anything. Chen Yu looks at him, saying that he has his life to risk. Back in the present, he thinks he's always done this, but he wants to know where the problem truly lies. Jiang Shan was too smart. He imagines him in front of him, wanting to know why he isn't speaking. He's betting his life on this, and at least he wants an answer. He repeats his name, but he calms down, thinking of his father and his brother, that they had abandoned him. But it was okay, because at least he won't rot in prison. He was still a bit sad to accept it, but it would be good if he could start over. He mentally repeats the words, "start over," and cuts his arm, thinking it's fun. Besides, the sensation is cold, so this is what it feels like to be close to death. He then closes his eyes and says he'll be laughing at Jiang Shan in hell. The night passes in that city. The guard was still sleeping, but Director Dong interrupts him. He asks what he's doing sleeping on the job, reminding him they had important, suspicious matters to attend to, and asking who would take responsibility. The guard says he was fine, as his ears are sharp and there were no problems. Dong then questions him, and the guard asks what the director stepped on, realizing it was blood. Dong looks down, jumping back and wondering where it came from, because, just as he thought, it was coming from Chen Yu's room. He questions the guard, asking if he didn't say everything was fine, adding that the Chen family's legal team was already on its way. The guard immediately opens the door. Both of them are shocked by the scene, seeing Chen Yu's body covered in blood. The guard tells him to wake up, but everything was bathed in blood. The guard checks his pulse and is shocked. He calls out to the director, telling him he's already dead. Dong says he was alone, and that it seems the legal team won't be asking for an explanation now. He orders an investigation into everyone who had contact with him today. The guard turns and says he'll do it. Dong thinks to himself that the Chen family was truly merciless, to discard a direct descendant like this. Later, still at the party, Lin Sun calls out to student Jiang. He asks if they can have a word and why he's staring at him. He says he knows it's not his fault and asks him not to look so scary. Jiang Shan replies that's just how he looks, and if he has something to say, he should just say it. Lin Sun says he's sorry. If he hadn't forced him into a competition, this wouldn't have happened. He offers him a drink and asks if he'd like to join him. Jiang Shan tells him not to feel ashamed. He says he just wanted to test him, not hurt anyone. The ones to blame are the venomous snakes hiding in the darkness. Lin Sun sighs and says he considers him one of the most remarkable people he's met. For someone his age to have such skill, he's the first. He admits he was completely right about his own defeat, not just in archery, but in character. He says he will definitely make him his friend. Jiang Shan says the feeling is mutual. The two of them shake hands. Lin Shun downs his entire glass, wiping his mouth afterward. He says he's looking after Shi now, and if he ever needs help in the future, he should just ask. His family is very influential in both Jiang City and the capital. Lin Shi then approaches them. She asks when they became so close, adding that her clothes got dirty so she had to cut them short. Lin Zun excuses himself, saying he's going to greet the other guests. The girl says it was her fault. If she hadn't agreed to her cousin's ridiculous competition, Jiang Shan tells her not to blame herself. What happened, happened, and they can't hide from it. The important thing is that they're okay. A song begins to play. Everyone remarks on the beautiful melody and the nice atmosphere. Lin Shi says her father hired a musician and suggests they go listen. Jiang Shan blushes. He takes his hand out of his pocket. He says there are a lot of people there and asks if she'd like to find a quiet place to sit down. Lin Shi agrees and says she knows a good spot. They start walking, heading towards a small chapel. The two sit down side by side. The protagonist, embarrassed, calls her name. He tells her he prepared a birthday gift for her. Lin Shi questions this, since her birthday banquet was ruined. The protagonist says that was for everyone else to see, but this gift is just for her. The girl asks what it is. She notices it's some kind of necklace with a paw charm, and she repeats the pendant's name. The girl blushes at this. Deng says that after everything he's going to give her that, and wonders what made him think of it. But Bai Peng says it's not a normal pendant. The bald guy looks up, asking where he came from because he scared him. Bai Peng just repeats himself. Jiang Shan notices the two of them bickering behind him, and laughs, thinking about those guys. Lin Si thanks him and says she really likes it, but asks if the cat paw has any special meaning. The protagonist explains that it's not a normal necklace, but also a set of brass knuckles. The girl is surprised. Brass knuckles? She asks. Deng asks who gives something like that to a girl. The protagonist says that he knows he can always protect her, but he hopes for more. He wants her to have the ability to protect herself too. Lin Shi asks how she's supposed to use it. The protagonist places it in her hand, showing her how it's used. He says he taught her basic self-defense, and combined with this, she can buy some time or call for help. Lin Shi's face turns serious. Deng says that's a terrible expression, and it's a terrible gift. The girl then calls his name, hugging him and thanking him over and over. Deng wonders what's happening. Jiang Shan asks what's wrong. Lin Shi says that since she was little, everyone has treated her like a delicate flower. They all told her to just be careful. No one ever cared about her learning these things, and nobody believed she could. Only he treats her like an independent person, not like a treasure that needs to be kept safe. Jiang Shan is surprised by this. He then moves his hand, holding the girl's waist and hugging her back. He says that since she's independent, it will start like this. She'll get smarter, stronger, and sometimes even tougher than him. Deng cheers that they're hugging. Peng agrees, noting he's completely red. The bald guy bets 100 silver that they'll kiss in 5 minutes. Bai asks why he'd waste money on that, but Deng taunts him, saying he's afraid to lose. Bai sighs and says 10 minutes, adding that brother Sean is the secretly passionate type. So the two start arguing about it. Lin Shi touches his shoulder and says she has something to tell him. She's transferring to a school in the capital next semester. Jiang Shan is surprised to hear this. The two behind the bush are just as shocked. Jiang Shan asks, "The capital?" Lin Shi says her father is being transferred for work, and with everything that's happened, her family thinks it's safer for her to return to the Lin family's foundation. She knows it's all very sudden. She doesn't want to leave everyone, and she doesn't want to abandon him. Jiang Shan asks if this isn't a good thing. He thinks to himself that he'll have to go to the capital sooner or later anyway. The Chen family's home is there too, and he has a score to settle with them. Then he tells her not to cry, because it's not like they'll never see each other again. The girl says the capital is very far away, and he still has his high school entrance exams. But the protagonist tells her to trust him, because they'll meet in the capital very soon. He smiles at her one more time. The girl agrees with him and says she believes him. A week after all this, Deng asks if he really wants to try for a school in the capital, saying he thought those were just rumors. If he starts studying like crazy now, he might not even get into next year's exam. Jiang Shan says he doesn't need a year. Deng asks how much time he'll need. The protagonist says it will be 3 months at least. His friend says that's a joke. In 3 months, they'll be in their second semester, and he asks how Jiang Shan is going to get to the capital. Jiang Shan shows him a booklet saying he has this, the Military Academy for Special Talents, with an admission pin. Deng screams when he sees it.